The judge ruled there wasn't enough evidence to prove Meade knew about the weapons found in the car he was driving. However, two co-accused, Brent Harak Singh and Akeem Lane, were found guilty and will be sentenced in September. A fourth man, Daryl McCarthy, died before the trial began. Local Government Minister Khadija Amin says she intends to report allegations of corruption in the URP to the police. Amin claims the issues took place under the previous PNM-led administration and involved ghost gangs and overspending in marginal constituencies. Opposition MP Marvin Gonzalez is calling for evidence and says the UNC is using unproven claims to distract from its lack of crime-fighting plans. Other PNM MPs have accused the government of targeting workers based on political bias and creating panic with unsupported accusations. Police have arrested two brothers, including a Defense Force member, after a gun and ammunition were found in their vehicle in Bellevue Gardens, South Oropouche. The men, aged 28 and 27, were held during a stop-and-search exercise. Officers found a Glock 26 pistol with 5 rounds hidden under the rear seat of their van. Both were taken to the Faizabad police station as investigations continue. Internationally, India's preliminary report into last month's deadly Air India crash has triggered debate over what led to the disaster. The report states fuel switches were turned off just after takeoff, cutting engine power. Though pilots restarted the engines, the aircraft crashed within seconds, killing 260 people. Critics say the report lacks key details like cockpit voice transcripts and may be withholding crucial information. Aviation experts warn against premature conclusions and urge a full investigation before assigning blame. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Get ready for the biggest business-to-business event of the year. The Trade and Investment Convention happening on July 17th to 19th at the Centre of Excellence in the Koya. Doors open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on business days and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Consumer Day. Dress code in effect for business days. Park and ride available from Constantine Park and UETGR North Car Park all days and NAMDevco on the 17th and 19th. Sponsored by the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, Exim Bank, Bal Roop Group and Bmobile Business.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title. It's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really want
to me. Respond to me. How you would respond to me?
The first question I'll ask is why.
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
As always, we appreciate you starting your day with us. Let's get into this morning's first conversation.
Is the country's healthcare system more at risk more than ever?
Why it has remained unaddressed for so long.
Political parties get lots of cash, big cash from financiers, and then when they get that now, you can't account for it.
But it's really the specialist nurses who we are in a greater shortfall for.
We can tap into the resources and have them, at least form some mentorship programs.
Highlight our food systems, and which will attract persons from all over the world to come and experience something that actually supports the local economy.
We're lucky that we have a vibrant legal system that allows change to take place, and it's not that matters are just swept under the carpet and discrimination is allowed to be perpetrated.
A lot of people don't know that there were attempts to ban the carnival, suppress the carnival.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm not to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
let's go to the last part.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we kind of have to stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience. Give us a call at 235-5479 for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Money. is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome to AM Prime on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish.
And I am Jada McLeod. How are you doing this morning, Naomi?
I'm good. I'm really excited for this conversation this morning, this first conversation. This is one that we kind of touched on between Jada and myself a couple shows ago. And we said we wanted to make this a real discussion, right? And get some feedback from professionals and persons who can actually speak on it. So the SEA exam, right, which has long been considered a rite of passage for 11 and 12-year-olds across Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. But this year, that tradition is under a little bit of scrutiny, and it has been so for some time. Every year, I think we always hear these conversations come up, but they die as quickly as they come up, right? So after topping the nation, SEA students, Sandhya Divya Maharaj publicly called for the exam to be abolished, saying children should not be facing anxiety and depression at this stage in their lives. So today we are joined by Tutor President Martin Lumpkin, and a little later on, we'll be joined by psychologist Sule Joseph to unpack this. Is the SEA system harming our children more than it's helping them? And if so, what does a better path forward look like, potentially? So we're joined by Mr. Lumpkin first. Good morning, Mr. Lumpkin, and welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning, Ms. McLeod and Ms. McNish. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for having us on your program this morning.
Is an honor. So my first question to you, Mr. Lumpkin, would be, if you were, and I like to give theoreticals like this, say aliens came down on the planet right now, and they were to ask you as tutor president, how beneficial do you think the SEA exam has been to students in Trinidad and Tobago over the years? What rating would you give the exam?
We would give it roughly a 7 out of 10, because it has benefited a number of our students over the years, but it has not benefited quite a bit of our students over the years. We have to remember that the SEA, which replaced the Common Entrance Examination years ago, and that was actually under the now Honorable Prime Minister. She was the then Honorable Minister of Education.
Yes.
And it was replaced with the SEA examination. And it is a placement examination. This is the standard, or this is the methodology by which we would place students from the primary into the secondary school. So that transition, we utilize an examination, and albeit it's a written examination, it's what we call a summative examination instead of a formative examination. And a lot is placed on this. This is what we deem a high-stake examination. And children at the age of 11 to 14 have to go through, as rightfully said by one of the top 5 students in the SEA, they have to go through the stress. And we are really elated that a student can analyze and come out and objectively state, well, it's really subjective, I should say, state by their experience what the examination, the impact it is having. And we want to go further, not only on the students and parents, but the teachers as well too, because the teachers, some from standard 3 or 4, are preparing these students for a high-stake examination. And within the confines of their classroom, they will have students of varying and mixed ability as it relates to the academics. And that's a further question we have to analyze as well. But we, tutor, has been saying over the years, we are on record as saying that this examination, the way we place students from primary into secondary, has to really be analyzed, and we really have to reflect on it. A few years ago, the then Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, would have had a committee look at the SEA examination. That report went back to the Honorable Prime Minister, and we have heard nothing since then. We are curious as to what are the findings of this committee as it relates to the SEA.
So, you know, based on what you're saying, do you think that the exam itself from conception was meant to be this high pressured, or do you think the culture around it has evolved into something a bit unhealthy?
Well, yes, the placement examination, and it goes way back, and what I want to say as well to Tutor has been saying, is that we have a colonial system of education, and we really need to look at, and there needs to be serious conversation, and not only conversation, charting a way forward as it relates to education. Tutor has always been asking, what is the nature and purpose of education in Trinidad and Tobago? Why are we educating our citizens? What are we really trying to do? And is the education system catering for all the needs of our children? So, such that we have to get those questions and answers and plan for that. But we have a system whereby we do not have sufficient places in the secondary school. At one point, we used to, and then there was a reduction, etc., etc. But this is a situation where you're moving the children from a primary into secondary, and its placement. And it, in our estimation, was not originally supposed to have been. Now, the thing is that in the origins of it, because there were not sufficient places, it was like a separation and to to place those who are on top into secondary, and those who are not prepared at the time, there was supposed to have been systems that catered for them. So years gone by, we had Standard 6 post-primary, which would have dealt with those who were not successful. It's not that they did not attain the standards, but the places were not sufficient. And then over the years now, because we are so competitive and because we want to get our children into, and I will interject here, one of the issues we are facing is the Education Act. And the Education Act gives the parent the right to choose which school they want their child to go to. So in this instance, we have that placement examination, and parents are given the choices of 4 schools. And so because we've been so competitive, because we want to go to these so-called prestige schools, it has been so, the pressure and the undue pressure, I should say, as well as the high stakes that we have placed on it, has made it so competitive that it is really draining on the students, parents, and teachers.
Mm-hmm. Those questions that you would have mentioned before, you know, why are we educating our citizens? What is the purpose? Who are the persons that are supposed to answer these questions, or that you would like to answer these questions?
In the first instance, it has to be the persons who drive policy, who create policy and drive policy. Over the years, it has, and it continues to be, the Honorable Minister of Education. What we have garnered, though, is that the Honorable Minister of Education is a creature of political being. And as such, the Honorable Minister will drive the policy based upon the government and, well, first instance, the party's outlook and future planning of the entire system in Trinidad and Tobago, including education. And their manifesto will now become policy. And these questions are supposed to be answered by the head at the time, which is the Minister of Education. And when policy is created, then from the permanent secretary go down to the other functionaries of the Ministry of Education will drive that policy in going forward. So the simple answer to the question is the Honorable Minister of Education.
Right. And has things been happening, or any efforts being made for these questions to be answered?
CUTA is on record and will continue to be on record, asking these questions to whoever drives policy. We met with the Honorable Minister, and there were a number of issues that we looked to address, long and outstanding issues. But we haven't sat down around the table and actually discussed these areas. And so the Honorable Minister has given the assurance that we will have timely meetings, and within the agenda that we will send to the Honorable Minister will be those questions. Mm-hmm. We did ask about SEA and continuous assessment, and we haven't gotten a full detail as to the direction in which the ministry is going, but we will have those conversations with the Honorable Minister.
Right. Because I honestly think those questions, they're important. And before you said it, well, when you said it, you know, I thought, you know, it's true, people we don't think about that. What is the purpose of our education system? Because if there's no purpose, then we're kind of just doing it. As people say, we go to school to pass an exam.
Exactly.
You know?
We're doing it just for the sake of sitting there.
Just because we have to.
And that brings me to my next question, which is it's kind of a long question, but the exam is high stakes. I'm just going to lay out a couple of facts first all agree on. The exam is high stakes mainly due to the placement aspect, where you decide where you're going to spend the next 5 to 7 years, right? So that can be a lot for students. But technically, the exam is just English writing, English language, and mathematics. Students do more than that, more subjects than that in primary school. So is it that the secondary aspect of school isn't, what's the word I'm looking for, isn't properly defined, or we don't put enough emphasis on the secondary aspect of schooling, and that's why we have to that's why it's so hard for students to actually, I want to make sure I'm getting myself across here properly, but there's so much emphasis on the exam itself, but why? Why? You're just going to a secondary school. Why is it so, it's spending the next 5 to 7 years there, why is it so,
I think
deeply concerning?
I think I understand your question, but from what I understand, I think we can ask that to Suli.
Mm-hmm.
But because it would be a lot more, it's more mental,
Mm-hmm.
I think, because as you said, it's just secondary school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have placed, as Mr. Lumpkin said earlier, different, we have this idea that we need to go to a prestige school, right? So when you have your schools lined up, your 4 choices, your 3rd and 4th choice is not really where you want to end up. Far less for a choice that's not even on your list.
And thank you for that, because the emphasis that we place on the prestige schools, why? Is it that the rest of the other schools aren't up to that standard?
No, I think it's just culture.
Exactly.
It comes down to culture.
But why is that a part of our culture? Why do we consider certain schools to be prestige and other schools not to be? And I guess that'll be my question to you.
So you're thinking out loud, and you're quite correct. We place emphasis on those 3 areas because it is the basic subjects that you require. And as you rightly said, we are focusing on certifying students instead of educating them. There are many other areas that in the secondary school. So the secondary schools have their curriculum, and based upon the historical as well as the focus of the administration and teachers, and also the Ministry of Education, you would have these subject areas being, there are basic subject areas in all secondary schools: mathematics, English A, English B. Those are basics, and then you have others that schools sometimes offer depending on the establishment that they have created. One of the areas that has been neglected over the years is the technical and vocational area, TVET, which focuses on those technical skills that are necessary for our society. So you look at woodwork, plumbing, food and nutrition, etc., etc. They have not been focusing on those over the years, and it has become such that some schools they request the conversion of those subject areas into the mainstream subject areas because they're not getting the teachers to come in. And if your teacher training has been thrown out the window, then you're not going to get persons who are trained in that area to come into the schools, auto mechanic, etc. And then when you don't have the offering for the students, they choose other areas. So what has been happening is that we've been stifling those areas. And we've heard the past administration speak about a drive to revitalize the technical and vocational education areas. We don't get a sense of where this administration is going, but it is something that we want to push as well too. But the focus on this high-stake examination has to be put on such that we have to find a better way to have our students transition from primary into secondary schools. And if we really want to develop the all-round person, then as you said, those 3 subject areas, yes, they are the core, but the other areas need to be developed. And I must point out that our primary school educators are burnt out by the end of the term.
Exactly.
Term 1, then term 2 and term 3, because the subject areas are overloaded. And what are required from our educators in primary school is overwhelming for them sometimes. And you know, we really have to relook our curriculum as well, and the way we assess our education system. Are we assessing for education, or are we assessing the education system to plan for the future as well? So those are critical areas we have to look at as well.
Yeah. Mr. Amplia, we're just going to take a quick break, and we're going to let Sule Joseph enter the conversation now. So stay with us, we'll be right back.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Get ready for the biggest business-to-business event of the year, the Trade and Investment Convention, happening on July 17th to 19th at the Centre of Excellence in the Koya. Doors open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on business days and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Consumer Day. Dress code in effect for business days. Park and ride available from Constantine Park and UETGR North Car Park all days, and NAMDevco on the 17th and 19th. Sponsored by the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, Exim Bank, Balroop Group and Bmobile Business.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
SM Group International Limited, your solutions partner for the latest innovations, brands and competent staff to meet your needs. We provide products and services in the following divisions: executive services, event rental and services, power and heavy equipment, construction and property management, food and beverage, aggregate and sales and distribution. Check out more on our products and services at www.smgrouptt.com. Contact us at 221-7445 or email at info@smgrouptt.com. We are SM Group International, your solutions partner.
Welcome back to the program this morning. So we are now joined by Mr. Sule Joseph, psychologist, Mr. Sule Joseph, to talk about, and we're now going to touch on the aspect of this conversation that deals with what the young student was, what she was referring to about anxiety and depression amongst these 11 and 12-year-olds when it comes to this major exam. So good morning, Sule. Welcome.
Good morning, Ms. McNeish. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
So yes, Ms. Sandhya Maharaj, the SEA student who topped the exam across
She's
the
one
nation.
One of the students
who topped the exam across the nation, and she came on and she said that she found the exam should be banned because of how much
she said
it
11 and 12-year-olds should not be feeling these type of emotions, anxiety and depression, and these are serious emotions, right?
To feel because of one exam. So
yeah.
So, Mr. Joseph, I would have asked a question earlier on talking about how we may not put enough emphasis on the secondary school aspect of the examination. Like, why is it so, why do we put so much pressure on the exam itself if it's just that you're going to pass for school, if it's just for school? So can you speak to that a little bit? Do you agree with what I'm saying, or do you have another opinion?
All right, apologies. I just broke up there a little bit, so I missed the core part of the question.
Well, I had a bit of a preamble. No problem. I had a bit of a preamble. But what I was saying is we place so much emphasis on
I got the preamble part.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, we place so much emphasis on the secondary school part of it. Is it that I forgot my question. Is it
why do we focus
on the secondary the exam so much if it's just that you're going to pass for secondary school?
By scope, the focus, that heavy exam-oriented focus seems to be a cultural thing. It also seems to be more within the remit of educators in Trinidad and Tobago, and they would have to answer why we still are stuck in this very exam-oriented or exam preparation-oriented mentality or phase in terms of getting our children primarily prepped and ready for a specific exam. And then we cool down, and then we get them again and ready for a specific exam yet again, and then they cool down. There are a couple of things, though, that are in your preamble I would still like to address. So I disagree a little bit in that children should not be feeling, well, I won't say.
Okay. It seems like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties to connect to Mr. Joseph.
Some level of sadness.
All right. Mr. Joseph, if you could just go ahead and maybe if you want to come out the Zoom and try to join back, try to rejoin afterwards, we can give that a try because we're not hearing you properly.
Okay, noted.
Right.
Are you all hearing me now?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So I said I disagreed slightly with the idea that children ought not to experience anxiety and or I won't say depression, but certain levels of disappointment and so on. A child is a tiny human, right? And so experiencing varied degrees in a healthy way of various emotions is very healthy and normal. Now, the anxiety that they feel, though, for exams like SEA and so on, are pushed to very unhealthy levels. And we can talk about all the different psychological effects and impacts that can come out of that, and psychoses and all sorts of things like school refusal and test-taking anxiety and so on. And we have studies showing what the impact of things like that can cause, right? Scholastic burnout, as you pointed out prior, depression and so on, there are significant fallouts that can come from these types of one exam oriented, focused, approaches, where you feel like your whole life is hinged on achieving this one exam, doing well in this one exam.
Yeah. So, Sule, do you think I have this idea that a lot of the anxiety and stress of these exams don't necessarily, because students are not gonna just up one day and feel stressed about these exams. Yes, it's an exam that we hear about our entire primary school life. From the time we hit standard 1, where we're told, okay, we have this at the end to prepare for. But do you think that a lot of this comes from the parents and teachers, but more so, I think, the parents, in that parents are often the ones that kind of push their children. They really stress them out. And I'm saying this because I've seen firsthand students from as well as standard 1, standard 2, and their parents are constantly they have lessons. They have, why is a standard 1, standard 2 student in lessons every afternoon, and they're constantly pushing them. Do you think that is a result, or that could be a reason why students face these type of high stakes emotions in their standard 4 and 5 years?
That's probably the primary driver of the culture that Mr. Joseph was just talking about.
Correct. So yes, correct, exactly. Parents fall into, I won't call it a trap, but parents fall into the culture, the societal culture. As a parent, of course, what you want is the best for your child. That's what you want. Your whole objective is to give your child a foundation so that they can have a good start in life and have a healthy life and be successful. That's what you want as a parent. Every parent kind of wants that, right? And so the parents also are led to believe that this exam is critical and crucial. If you mess up SEA, then you're starting off on a bad foot. Then your whole life could be in a possible mess, right? You hear horror stories about who went to certain schools and what happened afterwards, and the whole system that we had prior with the junior sec system also fed into some of that, where you felt like you were less than because you went to a school that was considered to be not quite as premium as another school, or other schools that are considered to be the top tier premium schools. And of course, everybody wants to be premium and top tier, right? So that a lot of parents would have felt, listen, yes, and of course, every parent thinks that their child is special, and they might be very well right? Because every person is special, but every parent feels as though their child is special and deserves, of course, a premium placement. And so that system, to me, just encouraged this chaotic, or encourages, rather, I'm speaking as though the system is broken, right? But this system encourages this culture of urgency that it is placed on children. A good example for me would be, in the US, you could start a degree in the US, and we start degrees here. When I say degree, undergrad, first degree system, we start degrees usually at let's say 17, 18, right? And in the US, you could do a full year, or maybe even 2 years, without even knowing what your degree program is. Without deciding exactly, you haven't made a determination yet what exactly you're studying. You've come to see what is out there, and there's no significant pressure on you to pick a certain area of study until after a period, right? And we are always looking to the US. We adopt systems from the US, and that's not something that we often talk about here. We often push our children from primary school. So when you are, from the time you are 10 and 11, they want you to know exactly what you want to be. You're supposed to have that figured out, and you're supposed to be pushing towards that, right? So you need to go to some top level school.
Yeah,
and
but,
so
but
yes,
would you
parents
two agree, Mr. Joseph and Mr. Lumpkin, do you two agree? Sorry, Mr. Joseph, for cutting you off there. But would you agree that testing is standardized? Shouldn't the schools be standardized as well? I hope that you're trying to understand what I'm getting to here. But my problem specifically is with these schools. It doesn't seem like if we place the same emphasis on all of the schools across the board, if the testing is standardized, then shouldn't the schools be standardized? Why do we have prestige schools? That is what...
I don't think all schools should be or could be on the same level, because not all students are on the same level. So that's why these schools are not...
My question to you guys then, I would flip your question back and say, why not? Okay, we talk about inclusive education, which was a big thing for a very long time. Inclusive education. And I don't want to make it sound like it's an attack on Mr. Lumpkin or anything. I don't want to attack the education system, but we talk about inclusive education. And if we talk about inclusive education and the primary purpose of a school is to educate, then all schools should cater for the fast track students and for some students that require different type of learning styles.
Well,
maybe
then,
not the chalk and talk, maybe they have more hands-on learners.
I think
I'm separating here not children with special needs. They're not children who may have learning disabilities and challenges. Perhaps you may want a specialized school to try to treat with that, depending on how far down, where they are on the scale for the disability. But this need that we have to separate and put the brightest and the best in one little group here and provide them with the best resources, and then leave students who struggle, who should then, and the truth is, the ones who struggle should be getting the best resources. So we should have a flipped system. The children who are weakest should then be going to the prestige schools who have the best teachers and the best systems and best funded. That's what you should have, because they're the weaker students who need it.
I don't 100% agree with everything you're saying.
A buddy system, because when you are a weaker student, sometimes in schools they pair you with somebody that's stronger in a subject. But when you put the weak with the weak, you're gonna just keep them weak.
No. You see,
Mr. Lumpkin.
Yes, I'm listening very intently, and it's a very interesting conversation. And so we have at this level at exiting primary into secondary, you are placing the top students in schools that they were given the choices. Hence, and as you said, when you have all the majority of high-performing students in one school, what do you expect from them? And then when you lump all of these so-called not achieving or low achieving students in one school, what do you expect as well too? And as you said, distribution of resources is not equal all the time. And rightfully said, if you have students who are not achieving or who are in the lower spectrum, they should be given more, the schools that is, should be given more of the resources. And we don't just speak about funding and other resources, but training as well too. And that's an aspect in the education system that I have to admit the present Ministry of Education is attempting to through teacher training. But ongoing professional development is one that we have to take seriously, because the education of our students is paramount to our nation building. And if we want our students and our children to be given an opportunity to achieve at whatever area they choose eventually, then you should be giving them that opportunity to do so. But in the past few years, we've been speaking about economic challenges, and as such, the resources have not been distributed. And when you don't have resources, our educators are such that we will go and find ways to get the resources to our schools. So which leads to fundraising. Is that a basic duty of schools to be raising funds, which can take away from curriculum as well too. So we are in a cycle which keeps some of the schools down. And we like to brand and we like to stereotype. So the denominational schools are the ones who are performing, and then you speak about the government schools. But there are a number of secondary government schools who are so-called high-achieving schools as well too. So that conversation really needs to be delved into deeply, because as was previously stated, we are still in a colonial system of education, and we have been adapting a number of initiatives from other countries, but it is not geared to our culture as well too. And the culture plays a great impact on our education system.
It does.
So it is a conversation we really have to delve into deeply. I could go on and on a number of areas.
Yes,
but
exactly.
But our educators have been, by and large, doing what they have to do with the resources that they have, limited as they may be. Infrastructure is another issue, but that could take another day as well.
Yes. I think
Mr. Lam, before you guys jump in, right? I think when we have this conversation about education, which people often have, oftentimes we omit what was the history of education in Trinidad and the Caribbean region, and what was the purpose of initially having the schools and the school system and the structure, and it was to train out our workforce. So when persons ask if education in Trinidad is failing, I may argue no, it's not, because the original intent was just to create a dutiful and obedient workforce. Now the question is that still its intent? And if the intent has changed, then we have to ask if the system is fit for purpose, right? So we have to ask if the intent has changed. Has the intent changed? And if the intent has changed, then we have to change how the system works. This exam culture.
That's what Mr. Lumpkin was saying a bit earlier on. Like, there were some questions that needed to be answered, and one of those questions were, what is the purpose of our education system today?
Yes.
And in order for anything to change or be addressed, that question has to be answered, because we need to know if the system is making sense.
Yeah, and I think that we need to have another conversation with that as our starting point. Yes. What is the purpose of our education system? But we do have to wrap.
So we have to put a pin in this conversation, unfortunately. Yes. But we would like to follow up on this conversation on another day with the both of you joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, have a beautiful day.
We'll make ourselves available.
Yes, thank you.
That'll be amazing.
Definitely.
All right, so we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have our final conversation covering TIC with the Shana Marie Israel. She is the lead coordinator for TIC. That's the Trade and Investment Convention. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Get ready for the biggest business-to-business event of the year, the Trade and Investment Convention, happening on July 17th to 19th at the Centre of Excellence in the Koya. Doors open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on business days and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Consumer Day. Dress code in effect for business days. Park and ride available from Constantine Park and UETGR North Car Park all days, and NAM Devco on the 17th and 19th. Sponsored by the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, Exim Bank, Bal Roop Group and Bmobile Business.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm not to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund
this arrangement. If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break a balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the game.
no.
Let's go to the last part.
This is 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title. It's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we cannot a stalemate.
You'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
Welcome back to the program this morning. So, As we said before, we're jumping into a conversation with it's a continuation. Over the past couple of days, we sat down with various members of the TTMA team for TIC, that's the Trade and Investment Convention 2025. So we've taken you behind the scenes and from marketing to messaging exhibitors and buyers. We've given you the rundown of what to expect of what we of the various days. It's a 3-day period from the 17th
to the
19th.
So Thursday 17th to Saturday 19th.
Yeah, so joining us this morning for this conversation is a woman who she's steering the wheel. She is the lead coordinator for TIC under the TTMA, and she's with us now, Ms. Shana Marie Israel. Good morning, Ms. Israel.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, just to start off this conversation, as a lead coordinator, you've had your hand in probably, I would assume, every aspect of TIC this year. What has it been like, the journey from, because I know y'all begin preparing for the following year as soon as the
conference comes to an end.
The convention comes to an end. So what has that journey been like throughout the year?
Well, I mean, I can speak for the year and I can speak for previous years because I've been doing this for quite some time, about 10 or 11 years thereabouts. So as you rightly said, the Trade and Investment Convention takes a year of planning. So as soon as one finishes, planning for the next one begins because it is a huge undertaking. In terms of the process, you have to start to think about all the logistics from the moment one finishes, the venue logistics, what it is you need to fix and reconstruct for next year, how much you want to increase based on the feedback. So yes, every little detail has to be put in place and managed and thought about from early o'clock. I mean, the year we usually launch TIC between September to November. Right after the last one, we give exhibitors, potential exhibitors, interested potential exhibitors, the opportunity to sign up early, even at this event, the one that's going on now, and take advantage of the early bird discounts that we might have, information, getting access to, what people might refer to as prime spots on the floor.
Yeah.
So you start pushing, like I said, the sales of the booths early. We already have gotten a lot of interest for 2026 already. So yeah, the logistics, the venue, our contractors, making sure everything is put in place. I mean, it's we also have to take into consideration the other events that take place during the convention, such as our seminars program, our BCB's meeting. We have to put into place parking considerations. Obviously, like I said, it's a huge undertaking that takes a year of planning. So,
Yes.
I mean, we do what we have to do.
Yeah, what are some of the key things that are different about TIC for 2025, whether that be in structure, partnerships, or even, focus for the convention itself?
I mean, every year, in terms of partnerships, we have new entities coming on board that join us in terms of offering something new, whether it be collaborations for SMEs to benefit from being at the event. When I say SMEs, like micro enterprises that may not necessarily have the opportunity to be in a trade show of this magnitude. We also partner with, whether it's cultural entities that can offer a new aspect outside of just regular business business, showcasings. So that's something that persons can look forward to. We have a lot of cultural push. We have a lot more micro enterprises that coming under our own partnerships and with entities such as Netco, etc.
Yeah.
And of course, not to brag, but this event is the biggest that has ever been.
Yes.
And from what we're seeing in terms of the booth constructions that are going up, like I said, I've been doing this for about 10, 11 years. The booths are a different level of impressive. So I think it's really something that persons need to come out and see. They need to really recognize what our manufacturers are putting out there, showcasing a world-class exhibits right here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, as you mentioned, more you've gotten, or y'all are taking or paying more attention to these micro enterprises this year especially. So how have you designed the event experience to be valuable? So it's not just for the large companies, but for small businesses, startups, and even the first-time exhibitors or buyers?
Well, just off the cuff, TIC on a whole, once a micro enterprise is there, a first-time exhibitor, just being at the forum in some form or fashion, you get that exposure, right? You get to actually be amongst something that is of a, like I said, a world-class standard here. So that's the first thing. Of course, what we do is we create specific zones as well for micro enterprises. So you don't feel as though you're lost amongst the large companies. They're in specific sections. So, persons, when consumers come in, buyers, whether it's local, regional, international, they know exactly where to find the micro enterprises. Of course, what we try and do are structured programs as well, training programs for micro enterprises to prepare them. We had sessions to prepare them for TIC, what to expect, how to be export ready. That is a major initiative of the TTNA. And of course, TIC is the launch pad for, like I said, for some of these micro enterprises to be on a world stage, and of course to show how it is they are making themselves export ready. So, like I said, that is what we offer in terms of getting those entities, really make them feel comfortable at TIC.
Yeah. Can we, let's reiterate some of the information for the public and for our viewers in terms of the time, location, if registration is still open as a buyer. I understand it's closed for the exhibitors.
Right, yes. So we're sold out. We have over 330 booths and pavilions, and they're all sold out. But in terms of persons attending the show as what we call buyers and consumers, general public, etc., registration, I'm going to say this very carefully, registration is still open, but up until, this is free registration, is still open, but up until midday today. So midday today, Wednesday the 16th, free registration is still open. However, if you happen to miss that cutoff mark of midday today, for free registration as a buyer or consumer, you can still attend the event. Come and pay. We have a minimal fee of $50 by the door. So in terms of the opening hours on the buyer days, which are Thursday and Friday, are from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And on Saturday, the 19th, obviously, if we're open to the general public, it's our consumer day, and it's open from 10 to 7, just bearing in mind, Saturday is the day that we're gearing towards families, and children are allowed to come on Saturday. Of course, a lot of our exhibitors are going to cater their exhibits for, that kind of environment. It's going to be fun, a lot of giveaways, sales, sampling. So, that's the key information. But again, you still have some time between now and midday today to register for free as either a buyer or consumer.
Do you think...
and of course, the location, Center of Excellence, Makoya.
Do you think that this would be for a business owner who did not register to be an exhibitor prior? Do you think they would still benefit by coming to the event?
100%, 100%. So, like the calls that we're getting, the emails, I realize that I missed the window to sign up to be an exhibitor. I come down, register your business, register yourself. You're representing a company. As much, I mean, you're open to come on all 3 days, but like I said, Thursday and Friday, it's geared towards business-to-business interactions. Just to stress, of course, one of our segments, major segments, what I call the meat of TIC, is our B2B meetings. So you're not just coming to see exhibitions, you get to actually engage in business-to-business meetings taking place. We have a special area for that. So as a business owner, you're not exhibiting, but you can meet with exhibitors there. And just again, it's not just local exhibitors, it's regional and international. So still register as a buyer. Come and have conversations, come and have B2B meetings. It's an excellent opportunity for networking.
Right. So the Thursday and Friday get towards that business-to-business interaction. Yeah. So it's not just, even if you don't have a booth as a business owner, you can still come and interact with other businesses. Yeah?
Yes. And of course, you're representing an agency, a company that you're working for. You come down on Thursday and Friday as well.
Right. And then, so the Saturday is that the family day. I understand there's a family day where the kids can come out and I think it was Consumer Day. Yeah?
Yes.
Nice. Can you talk a little bit about that and what we can expect for Consumer Day?
So what we try to push to the general population of Trinidad and Tobago is, and I think I've stressed on it a little bit before, a lot of persons are not aware of the type of event such as TIC that takes place in Trinidad and Tobago. It is TIC is the largest international business networking trade show in the English and Dutch-speaking Caribbean. So what we have here is something unique. What we have here is something that other countries in our region, model things after. So we have a good product. And what we want to do, what we strive to do by having a Consumer Day is to introduce the general public to, like I said, a world-class trade and investment convention, a world-class expo. Come and
all right, so there's, okay.
We got a little...
We would have lost...
connection.
How we try to have, our exhibitors engage their customers on a one-on-one basis, making sure that they can sample stuff, of course, have special sales, giveaways, they have games that are going on. So it's a lot of things that are catered for family and for children. So there's a lot to expect. As like I said, over 300 exhibitors that are going to have, exciting activities for families.
Yeah. Well, I think we have to wrap there. We will wrap there for today, but as said, we'll reiterate the information. It's July 17th, that's tomorrow, to the 19th, Thursday and Friday. Those are the 2 business days where if you are a business owner, you can come. That's the business-to-business interaction. And I guess the networking side of it. Then the Saturday, that's the Consumer Day, so you can bring your kids and take advantage of all the attractions and sampling and just, get, see what there is to offer. Because based on how it sounds, I know there's going to be a lot to see, a lot to experience, and a lot of people to interact with.
And we also want to remind persons that we have our park and ride service.
Right.
So please use it. The parking, you can park at, if you're coming from the west and central, you can park at UETGR North Car Park, which is on Evans Street. If you're coming from the east, you have the NAMDEVCO Car Park, you have Constantine Park. It's a safe, secure parking, and you're being shuttled straight to the venue, and then you pick back up at your drop-off point and drop back to your car. So please use that, beat the traffic.
Nice, that sounds good.
Everything's been thought about, it seems.
Yes. This park and ride system, this is new for this year?
No, it's not new. It's something that we've had to implement within the last couple of years because the demand for TIC in terms of participation has become, extremely high, and the facilities at Center of Excellence parking facilities is limited to some degree. So we need to make sure that when we're encouraging our patrons, while we're encouraging them to come, we want to make things easy. So this park and ride system is absolutely necessary, and it does, like I said, help beat the time that people will wait to try and get a park at Center of Excellence, to try and get in the venue. We have it from both sides, whether I said you're coming from the east or central, or from the west and central, or from the east. Take advantage of these locations and the service.
Yeah. So once people come, there would be proper signage and telling you where you can go. Are there also going to be parking assistance?
Yes, they are. And any updates that you're looking for, just a reminder of where the locations are and the times, you check our social media pages, our Instagram, Facebook pages, both TTMA and the TIC pages, and you'll find everything there. The service runs from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Awesome. All right, Ms. Israel, thank you so much for the information and for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. All right, so we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, today is Wild Wednesday, so we are going to be joined by Mr. Ricardo Mead in studio this week. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Get ready for the biggest business-to-business event of the year, the Trade and Investment Convention, happening on July 17th to 19th at the Center of Excellence in the Koya. Doors open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on business days and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Consumer Day. Dress code in effect for business days. Park and ride available from Constantine Park and UETGR North Car Park all days, and NAMDEVCO on the 17th and 19th. Sponsored by the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, Exim Bank, Bal Roop Group and Bmobile Business.
Low energy? Heart concern? The science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
I am Dr. Delphina Ovid, your friendly neighborhood dentist. At Community Hospital Dental Clinic, we offer examinations which include x-rays, basic oral cancer screening, and a treatment plan. We also offer cleanings, fillings, extractions, root canal treatment, and complete and partial dentures. Remember, you don't have to brush and floss all your teeth, just you want to keep.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital.
Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm not to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the game.
not no.
Let's go to the last part.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God. So we kind of at a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI. Worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'll ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh. Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
Welcome back to the program this morning. So it is Wild Wednesday.
Wild Wednesday, as you guys can already tell.
Yes, we had to wait for that that bumper. But as always, we have Mr. Ricardo Mead joining us on the program this morning from the El Socorro Wildlife Center for Observation.
One day we'll get it. We get it very,
That's the Career Center for Wildlife Conservation.
Good morning, ladies. Good morning to our friends, followers out there on the WWW. Welcome to Wild Wednesday. Thank you for having me. It's great to be back in the studio with these two lovely ladies and this spectacular little bird here that has so much played a part in our lives that we don't even really realize it. So that's where I come in. It's about reaching and teaching and showing people the connection between us, what we do, our lives, and the animals, and how much the animals have influenced our lives by their behavior, what they eat, what they do. Just, you know, there's an influence, there's a connectivity. Yep. And we try to deny it, or sometimes we just don't open our eyes, or sometimes we're just ignorant of these connectivities. So it takes a historical perspective. When you start looking at an animal, what's the name? Where did it come from? Who used the name before? And wait, why does that sound familiar to other things that we have done or used? And when you pull it all together, it's like, wow, there is so much synergy, so much connectivity with this strange little bird here who sadly is injured. So this is a striped cuckoo. Of course, you would know the name cuckoo from the cuckoo's clock. You know, you expect it from the cartoons. 12 o'clock, bing, it comes out, cuckoo, cuckoo. Yep, so that's his family. So there are more than 100 different cuckoos around the world. And here in Trinidad, we have probably about 8 or so. Some loosely in the family, like what they call the male kobo. That's the black bird that is usually in a group. As soon as you start a waka, they come down, cut grass, they come down, choo, choo, and they come down and they start because they're insectivores. So you're cutting with either disturb grasshoppers, cut off the heads of worms and stuff. So they're there, they know the sound of a waka, they know the smell of gas. You know, in fact, I feel they know from the night before when your mother tell you, you gotta cut the grass tomorrow, you know? And they say, hey, tomorrow we're going by so. So they appear because it's food. So they're very intelligent animals. That's why they develop this relationship with people where we're doing work, where there's a brush cutter cutting on the highway, you see them following and hopping along. They have a kind of funny hop that they do. So this is a less known one, but cuckoos have very interesting characteristics and behavior. This one was found down Moruga. Somebody was trimming a tree and it fell out of a nest. But the interesting thing is, the nest that it fell out of, he doesn't know, well, I know, it's not his nest.
Oh.
The parents do something called brood parasitism. Strange name. They would go and lay their eggs in another bird's nest. Why? So that bird will raise their young.
Okay, nature.
So they are, by nature, they are born to be orphans.
Well, I guess you can say that. But the parents are, I guess, I don't know, lazy, preoccupied, whatever. They choose for another parent to raise their young.
I think I understand the connection here now. Was he found in an owl's nest?
Owls? No.
Oh, okay.
Because owls don't have nests.
Oh.
That's something you always remember. Raptors, well, not all raptors, some of them, owls are cavity dwellers. So an owl will nest in a hole in a tree that was probably made by a woodpecker and used by a toucan and a parrot, or even sometimes in your house, a little space in the roof they get in there. Right? So they're cavity dwellers. They will not build a nest. They will literally just lay right there on the surface. This, however, was found probably in a little tanager's nest and so on. And you would see some pictures sometimes when you look on the internet. You see this massive bird in a nest and a tiny little bird struggling to feed it, like a house wren. So this bird gets pretty big compared to a little house wren. And you would see it, especially as a juvenile, filling up the whole nest. Sometimes they will even kick out the natural babies of that bird and sit there with their big old self. Mama, feed me. And mama doesn't know that's not her child. That's why she's concerned. She sat on it. She hatched it, and now she's feeding it.
Ah, okay. I've witnessed that. I've seen that before, and I couldn't understand why.
A very common one is the shiny cowbird. That does that a lot. You will see a little brown wren with this big brown bird that usually turns into a black bird. But that is that sort of brood parasitism. It throws out. Sometimes it just lays it there. Sometimes you actually throw out, or the babies throw out the other babies or the other eggs. And like, okay, now I'm here. You're gonna feed me and take care of me.
Like, why do you eat so much food?
Right? And now, the thing is that this bird, the striped cuckoo, this one here has, as it grew, when we got it, it was much smaller, a couple of weeks ago. So it was a nestling. And we were only able to determine so much in terms of the body condition because they're usually just sitting in the nest. Now that it's growing, we're realizing that he has a problem with the leg. So as it fell from the nest, it probably hurt its leg, and its leg is not functioning the way it should. So now it's reached a point where it should be standing and hopping around. It's not doing that because of this wonky left leg. So we're going to have to figure out how we can fix that. Hopefully, as the bones are young, we can sort of, they're malleable, and we can probably get it to be, or probably even through therapy, get it to start moving it to the point where it can exist in the wild. Because I do not want to keep this bird. Okay, they eat a lot of insects. They will eat me out of house and homes. And we have a lot of insectivores coming in all the time. So if you have one there that's an ambassador that's eating, when it comes time for the new ones to come in to get their rehab, you're going to be stretched for resources. We always stretch for resources, even worms. So I brought some today because I know Jada just loves these worms. She just loves, I'll just put a couple out there on the counter. Jada, so these are the worms.
Can I get the tweezer looking thing?
Okay, so these are feeding forceps, the long ones there. So it gives us a little distance. So this guy just loves this worm. So we pick the worms up. Okay, and we're on there. Let me just grab the worms. Come on, why is it going by you? He's running to the source of his pain. But all right, so we're going to grab the worm. Hey, that's giving me a little challenge here today. And we're going to feed him. So you get an idea of how we go through the process of feeding him. I'm just going to get him lined up properly. This worm is very feisty this morning. Actually, people, it's not a worm. That's the thing. It's not a worm. It is actually the larva. Basically a caterpillar. Come on.
Interesting. I don't know if I can see him eat it.
There we go. Come on. Wolf it down. And there you go. Just almost gone. Come on, you can do it. Oh, he dropped it. Come on. All right, let's try another one. We do have to, sadly, crush the head of the worm.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't, one, bite back and fight back there we go, we try this one again. There we go. You keep dropping them, why?
The worm just narrowed.
Maybe he's getting bite.
No, I crushed the head. Yeah, I did. Come on. Usually prefers them, I'm going to have to do what Jada is not going to want to see. He's trying. There we go. He's trying at it. What we do a lot of times, we're trying to step up his the size of worms that he eats, but we also try to give them smaller pieces.
Ooh, interesting.
And this worm is very pugnacious. It's still there trying to run away. But these are some of the challenges we go through in feeding. If it's too early in the morning and they don't want to eat, they're not going to eat. If it's too late and they just, there we go. So we're doing much better that way. All right, there we go. One more time. There we go. Yeah, he prefers his literally his bite-sized pieces as opposed to the full ones, and we have to keep trying to encourage it to eat larger pieces, larger worms. So this bird, his history with human beings go back many years and has given birth to terms that we use in our vocabulary. And again, there's this guy that I always mention, is a guy called William the Bard Shakespeare. You guys heard of Shakespeare?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. And every time I deal with animals and look for connections, I sometimes discover just how this guy, and I would maintain that Shakespeare could never have been one person.
Yeah.
But like a whole movement of people who wrote in a similar style. It's like if you have a rap movement, when you start mumbling, everybody starts mumbling or whatever it is. So yeah, but they have similar trends. And he used so much from the natural world in his writings, and that went into the language. I'm talking from 1812, 1819, all those times, to now we use those words.
Yeah.
So there's a word now, and there's a word that we use. Well, as you say, we're big people here. The word is cuckold. And Jada laughs. I wonder why. I thought I would have to explain this, but Jada is laughing because she knows exactly what this word is.
Yes,
okay. Unfortunately. Okay. So the word is used as a genre in pornography. But a cuckold back then, so you wrote a play called, about 1512, Love's Labour's Lost. And it's a comedy, one of his early comedies. And he used the term then. The term was used to refer to an unfaithful woman, an adulterous woman.
Okay.
It has switched around a bit to now meaning more of a man in a situation taking care of someone else's family. sometimes without him really even knowing. So the woman would have been probably adulterous, got impregnated, had a child that he doesn't know is his child. So he's now taking care of that child. In a similar situation with the birds, taking care of the brooding in the nest. So there's a connectivity there. So Shakespeare took it from there, put it in the language, and we use that today. You see that amazing connection?
Not the way it should be used, but...
Right? But yeah, it's used, but it generally means that a situation where a guy is taking care of a child and he usually doesn't know that it's not his.
Right.
You know? So that takes me back to a production I did. I was also a thespian, remember? Thespian, not the L word, okay? Very much into playwriting, acting, producing, and I had written a play based on a song by Lord Melody, Fitzroy Alexander. It's called Shame and Scandal in the Family. So it was a situation where a family in Tobago, based in Tobago, wanted his son to get married, and every time he brought a girl from the village who he thought was a potential suitor, his father would pull him aside and said, "You can't marry this girl because that's your sister." He says, "All right, I understand. You had an outside child." He brings another one. "Can't marry this girl either. That's your sister." Son's frustrated. He brings girl number 3. He says, "You can't marry this girl either. That's also your sister." So his son's like, "What are you, the village ram? You father everybody in the village?" You know, so he broke down. He couldn't take it anymore. So his mother asked him, "What's the matter?" He says, "Well, Dad says I can't marry these girls." He says, "Why?" He says, "Because they're my sister." Mom says, "Look, you love the girl?" He says, "Yes." He said, "Marry her." He said, "Can't do it as my sister." He says, "Look, it's about time. There's a big man for me to tell you. Your father is your father, but your father don't know. Shame and scandal in the family. Woe is me. Shame and scandal in the family." That's one of the most popular songs actually in the world. That was a very popular song. It was written over in about 12 languages and sung over, you know. But that situation, because that situation, it happens anywhere in the world. You think it's Trinidad alone like that? No. Absolutely not. Okay, in Africa, in India, in the Far East, in China, there's always a village ram who would have fathered several children in a situation like that there. Human stories are never really original, eh? It's just different situation. We have different technology now, but this thing is the same, right? Even our stories are even the animal stories as we're learning now. Yeah. And from 1512, Shakespeare wrote about a situation like that, that is still relevant today in 2025. So our stories are not really going to change. You change the face of the people, you change the color of the people, you change some of the culture of the people. But human nature is human nature. And how we behave and interact with each other, it's never really going to change. You know? It's
interesting to me that the bird doesn't know the egg that it's laying on. They didn't lay it.
No, they're not going to look and identify, okay, this is mine and this is... No. She comes to that nest. The maternal instincts, and this is something that is always commendable in nature. The maternal instinct in some species, not all, some species are designed to like, psh, you're on your own, partner, you know? And the funny thing is, birds are very maternal and loving and caring and so on. But at a particular point, they would literally kick the babies out of the nest and like fly. You fly or you die.
Do you think that these birds, because based on this story, right, that the father doesn't know that he's not the father, right? And the child didn't know that, or the son didn't know that that his father wasn't his father. Right. Right, so that's where the scandal is. But is it that these birds are aware that they are not the
offspring?
The offspring of the nest that they're in?
No, the birds do something called imprinting. And what it is there, it's like, and they showed this, there's a great movie about a girl that raised some Canadian geese. And they got the eggs for some reason, and they hatch, and they literally imprinted on her. Their eyes open, and the first caretaker vision that they got is who they would emulate. So they emulated her. They wanted to go to school with her and sit with her. They did everything the way she did. And then they realized, you know, we can't keep these birds like this. They should fly, they have to migrate and stuff like that there. So they got what they call an ultralight airplane, and she went up in it, and they wanted to follow her. So what did they do? They flew. And then they did the V formation like the geese do when they migrate and they fly and stuff like that there. And they learned to be geese. And this is important because this is what we have to do at the Wildlife Center. I have right now eggs in an incubator. They had to remove the eggs from an area, and instead of letting the animal die, I have them in an incubator. They may or may not hatch. We're trying our very best with them. But if they hatch, the first thing they will see would be us. And of course now they would want to imprint. So we have an owl called Imprint because he was imprinted. And we released him when he came back, he's like, I'm not an owl, I'm a human. I'm not built for this catching rats out there thing. Bring my food on my silver plate. I'll sleep in the bedroom above the bed. That's his life. Okay, so sometimes you can reverse it. It's very difficult, but many times you can't. And even if you reverse some of it, sometimes some things kick in that makes the animal want to be person again, a human again. You know, it's like you can take the pig out the gutter, or you can't take the gutter out the pig. Yeah, so some of our habits just are ingrained, and that's what happens with them. So it's always difficult. So it's going to be quite a transition now, okay, for me to get this bird to go from waiting for me to feed him with a silver forceps and literally stick food down his mouth that he often spits out, to learning to pick it up on his own, wolfing them on his own. But the challenge is going to be that leg there that's just sticking out there. Again, when it was at that tiny stage there, you could not tell what was going on with that leg because he was just supposed to sit. Now he's supposed to stand. You see that leg out there, and it's quite concerned. And it's frustrating him. He's trying to move and so on. So this bird here has an amazing dance. It's called a striped cuckoo. So guys, you can look it up on YouTube, striped cuckoo dancing. And what they've done, the dance, they've of course dubbed it over to music. So it's a sort of robotic dance because he has these sort of, the wings have a sort of special short feathers in the front. And what he does like this here, he does a sort of robotic dance. So you play the music and he'd be like, double wobble gato, Mr. Roboto, double wobble. You know, guys don't know that song, that was back in the age. But yeah, you know, very robotic, like he's breakdancing and stuff. So they dub it over with different types of music, and you can see that's his natural behavior. And we don't know, the first time, this is the second time we're having a squirrel cuckoo, we didn't know that. We didn't do squirrel cuckoo dance search. But we saw it literally sitting there, and he would stand up and then start doing this. And looking at you and doing the dance. You know, and then we looked it up to see the movement, and when we saw the dance, we were just cracking up. And he was just doing it right through until we released him, and it was just amazing. But my concern again is this leg. We really want this bird out there. You're going to be too expensive to keep and feed, buddy, as an insectivore. You know, if we have to do it, we will find a way. But we really rather him gain some use of that leg and be able to support himself. A limp, a bump, that's not a problem. Animals a lot of times are born with these little deficiencies. They're not always perfect. But he would need the leg to be able to fly. They literally push off with them. So we're going to do our very best to see what we can do.
Because he has very long legs,
yes.
I noticed.
Yeah.
His legs are not just his, I don't know what to call it, toes.
Yeah, very long toes and legs,
yes.
yeah, because of his time spent in trees and so on. So look how long his leg, that's how long he should be standing. Very, very tall, very proud, but this leg here, this leg is this.
So the other leg works?
The other leg works. The other leg works. Yeah, the right leg works well.
They both look pretty spiny, just like pretty.
Yeah, very slender legs, so literally hop in trees and so on. You can imagine we're just literally hopping about in the trees and stuff like that there with those, you see, and that's little extra short feathers that he helps to do that squirrel dance. So you guys out there, if you don't believe me, just, you know, look up on YouTube, striped cuckoo dance, and you will be amused. There'll be your amusement for the day.
No, don't forget that striped cuckoo dance.
On YouTube, yeah, that's why I love YouTube.
Yeah.
You can find anything on YouTube, you know, and sometimes anybody too, and that can be scary sometimes.
So we have this striped cuckoo with us, but there's also another bird in studio with us that it seems like he or she wants to be heard.
Quite a miserable guys, and that's a juvenile tropical screech owl. I'll reach out and try to get him to come out. You want to come out? Come on out. Come on out. Yeah.
Oh, he's like, nope, I don't want to.
He doesn't know what he wants to do half the time. I didn't bring his perch, so he's like, what am I supposed to stand on? Right? So this is, let me see, get some more. Right. Right? Oh, fuzzy bird, tropical screech owl. So we had a tropical screech owl before, but it was an adult, full adult. This is a sub-adult. So the head doesn't even have proper feathers. What he has in the head is downy feathers. Okay? And of course, his favorite thing, I think he wants to go out here because he knows out here we have who? Who's out here? Who's out here? Who's out here? Who's out here? Out here is the worm. Go ahead. So this is why we don't want to keep a lot of insectivorous animals, because now we're going to have to increase our production to probably a couple million a year to keep up. And every year, our need and use increases tremendously. Come on, what are you backing up for? There you go, right? So when people say, oh, that is so cute, I want one, I want to mine one, I always say, drink water and mind your own business. Yeah. Let the animals be the animals, because you're not going through this. You're not going to go through this. And this is the nice part.
Yes, it is. It's like a
you hold, you hold it, yeah. This is the nice part. This is simple. A little forceps, you grab some worms. Okay, where are you going to get the worms from? And then the other part of it, this is not a complete part of his diet. This is his snacks. Okay, this is like ice cream. You can't live off of ice cream. No matter how much you love it, you cannot live off of ice cream. You need the other good stuff. So he needs to eat his rats and mice and stuff like that there, which you're going to have to cut up. You know, one lady told me, how am I supposed to feed the rats and mice? I said, well, you have to bite the head off and chew off the legs and chew it up and then put it to his mouth and he will take it from you. She says, you're kidding. I says, no, I'm serious. It will take it from your mouth if you do that. Fortunately, we don't have to do that, but you still have to get all bloody and messy, killing rats and mice. First acquiring rats and mice, killing them, cutting them up, and give it to them. Because owls do not drink water, so they get their fluids from that lovely blood. Very important. So you can't even buy chicken and give it to them and hope that it will be good enough for them. You got to do it right. If you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. Leave it alone. Amen. Mind your business. Leave this alone. Leave this for the experts. Leave this for the people who will not freak out when a worm goes crawling out of their pajamas when they get in bed at night. It has happened. Yeah, you do the night feeding. They get everywhere. Not only do they get everywhere, not only do the worms get everywhere, they eat anything.
A worm crawled out of your pajamas?
Yes. Feeding, it fell onto my clothes and got into the pocket. And at some point in the night, I'm feeling something just moving. And I did that, and nothing. But then after that, it just literally came out and on the bed, and it's like, hey, I like it here. And I was like, no, just grabbed them, took him back outside, and fed it to the owl. See, we have to have a lot of these animals at home because of their feeding schedule.
Yeah.
They have to be fed for 12 hours a day. So from 6 to 6, they have to be fed. Every hour and a half to 2 hours. Sometimes they're not so full, sometimes they're more full. But that means at least 6 times a day, this has to get fed, he has to get fed, the other one has to get fed. Okay. So a lot of times that's why they come with me. Because when I have them and they're on their feeding schedule and I have to get out there to work and do an interview, whatever I have to do, meeting, you know, sometime in the middle of the meeting, I'm like, excuse me, can you excuse me for a short while? So I'll be just like a mother who's breastfeeding and excuse myself to the bathroom, you know, and I complain, you know, they don't have, you know, changing stations and baby stations in men's room. Why? Because what we don't take care, we don't take care, not a feeding.
No, indeed, that's a different conversation in
itself.
itself.
You know, but yeah, so I go to the bathroom or another room, a secluded area, and I whip out the worm. Sometimes if it's a primate, I have the baby bottle, you name it, whatever the food is. Be it chicken, be it rat, be it mice, be it worms, okay, be it the hand-rearing formula. So sometimes you have a little baby bag because the formula has to stay nice and warm. Okay, and you'd pull it out and you would shake it up and put it into the syringe and feed them. It's a lot going on that we have to do. And 99.999% of people cannot do that. So just leave that for the people who are willing, whose lives are adapted for this sort of situation. Yeah, he's like, okay, where's the next one? Where's the next one? Where's the next one? Where's the next one? What is that about? Oh yeah, what are you about? You're sticking with that there. Yeah, it's just
I love his eyes. I
love
his eyes.
Yeah, it's a joy to feed them. When you get them to this stage, after the early stage where you have to chop up the stuff, when they start putting it down whole and easy like that, it's fun now. I mean, although they do still make I will give them the mice whole and they would make a serious bloody mess with it just literally all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's how they eat. And you must understand
I would love to witness that. I mean, it can, I would imagine it looks like something straight a scene out of a movie.
Yeah, it's a bloodbath. Literally a bloodbath when they go. Yes, I know. You need must exercise those wings. Here, you want to try this one? Are you going to try it? Yeah. Say thank you. Say thank you. Hello. No, you're shy?
I absolutely love how when he's about to eat it, he closes his eyes like he's He's just savoring every moment.
Are you going to eat a whole one now? We're trying to get you to eat a whole one. And just keep
of this worm.
No, he's like, no. And I'm sure that leg is just so uncomfortable for him because he cannot get into the proper feeding position, and that is a bit stressful for him. So we're going to try our very best.
I can't see the break off of his eyes with a cat.
Oh, come on. Yep, that's what it is. It's a lot of...
Yeah, you see, y'all are seeing how much work this takes to feed a bird that's not at 100. So as Mr. Mead rightfully said,
spit it out.
Leave them alone. If you see an injured bird, do not take it and try to mother it on your own.
Would you... Yeah. This is the garbage disposal unit. You don't want to eat anything, he will eat. He will not say no at all. Like, again, this is ice cream. So it's like, do you say no to ice cream? No, not until your belly ready to bust.
He's finding a way to eat it.
Yeah.
Hello.
So this is just part of our world right here. The cuckoo, from the cuckoo clock, the brood parasitism, the cock cold, all that sort of stuff there, that's all relatable and understandable in today's world, and our stories that we tell and our lives that we live. So with each time and each animal, I'm trying to even present a way that it connects to us. It's not just about them and they're exclusive. No, they're us and part of our lives. Our bats. We have at least 98 species of mosquitoes in Trinidad, at least. That's in one region. But we also have 70 species of bats, of which most of them are insectivores. So there's a balance. Mother Nature, okay, lots of mosquitoes, so we give you lots of bats to sort of balance that out. In the US, only 45 species of bats. The whole of America, you know, and you need to watch a map to see. When you watch a map of America, you really can't see Trinidad enough. The way they show Trinidad is just so that we can see Trinidad. But in terms of the scale, Trinidad does not show other than just a minuscule dot. There's no form and shape and thing like that there. But they do that so you know, okay, well, that's Trinidad, and that's kind of what it looked like. And such a massive place and so few bats. And such a tiny place and so many bats. But it's there for a reason. And then, of course, in a tropical environment, you need the bats to pollinate. How are you going to get your banana, your balata, your pomerac, your mangoes, your plantain? All these things are very important. So everything, the connectivity, I know it gives me joy with the discovery of each. So part of what I do now, whenever we get an animal or get a chance, and I would just randomly think of an animal, and I try to go back and see where it was in our history. At what point did we become aware of these animals as human beings? When was it so-called discovered? Yeah, and put it in perspective. I know the interesting one, and one I probably want to bring next week or week after. We have a peregrine falcon. That's the fastest animal in the world. That what that animal is able to do is like the Concorde. After that, you have Concorde and you have planes, and the distance between them is tremendous. You know, imagine New York to London in a couple of hours, as opposed to that 6-hour painful, leg cramping, butt numbing flight. You know, red eye, you come out, you're tired, you want a whole day, but you have a meeting the next morning, and you know, so that's what it is. The bird is a revolution. And the Concorde, and many of our fast, are you going back inside? Our fast apparatus, vehicles, they used the animals for inspiration in something called biomimicry. So biologically, there are certain features, and humans now, in our mechanical engineering, mimic that to have a similar effect. So the ultra-fast bullet trains, when they used to pass, they used to there was a sonic boom, there was a lot of noise. And then they discovered that there is a bird that dives and without noise, less turbulence. And the train, they did a simple thing. They curved the nose of the train, just like the beak of the bird, and eliminated that right away. Biomimicry. It's just amazing what you can do when you observe. But if we think that we're so special and we're up there, we will make it work. And you wouldn't take the time to watch at an animal. Okay, when you understand our mechanical growth and development or industrialization was literally on the backs of animals. If you understand that, you understand how people do it and how people have done it, and we've gotten to this point, right? So a unit of power is called a horsepower.
I'm sorry, but he's just doing that dance and I can't. I love it.
Yeah, quite. No more food. All right, I'll give you another one.
I love that we had a very interactive episode of Val Wednesday today, where we got to witness Mr. Mead actually feeding these birds. And I think we can do more of that if possible.
We'll try. Not everybody is suited to one, come
once
on
we
air,
can,
and two, to be in a situation where they can be fed. But like I said, this story is just really sad. I should have been reaching and scrambling and grabbing him across the counter. But see, I brought him out and he has not moved.
Yes.
Because he just cannot. And we're going to work on him. We're going to do our very best to see. Sometimes you just have to resplint and put rubber bands on the legs to keep them together. All sorts of things there. He's trying. He wants to fly.
Keep us updated with our cuckoo friend here and his progress. And
he will grow feathers all over that.
Huh?
Oh, sorry. He'll grow feathers all over, like his back.
More feathers. Shorter feather coverage, and his tail will be much fuller. His tails, see, they're sort of closed in and sort of straight, looks like pins there. That's the feather shaft. So they kind of come out of that and then they just bloom like a flower.
Love
and
that.
Then you'll get that lovely, so those are, they call pin feathers right now. So you can almost pull it out. It looks like a little pin with just a little shaft in the end, but it will just bloom out. And in another week's time, it'll almost be unrecognizable to the way he is right now. Just really amazing the development that they go through. And here's his sound. Yeah, they haven't watched. Everything about this bird is just so amazing.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Mead, for coming on and teaching us about.
Thank you for having me as usual. And you folks out there, thank you for tuning in. Keep tuning in. Send your questions. Find your hard questions, your difficult questions. Anything with related to, no dogs and cats, please. Wildlife. We have linkages between dogs and cats, but let's keep it focused more to wildlife. And if there's a linkages, like we did last time with the possums and so on like that, we will do that. But always a pleasure to come out, to reach, and to teach.
Yes, and always a pleasure to learn. We learn a lot from you every week. So that brings us to the end of our program this morning. We do have a comment from one of you.
The most beautiful people wear their hearts on their sleeves. So, good morning, you are all blessed. Keep it up. We're blessed to have you in our hearts and homes. Thanks so much. Our love to you all. Our love right back at you. Thanks so much for your comments and for letting us know how you feel.
And then that's our quote for today. The most beautiful people wear their hearts on their sleeves and their souls in their smiles.
I love that.
And that's what we try to do every day.
Yes.
And we hope you do as well. We just want to leave a reminder with TIC. Tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday, we will be there. The WESN team will be there on the 3 days. So you can come and check out our booth. Our booth is number 229. I will be there. Jade will be there Thursday and Friday. Sean Michael Small will also be there on the Saturday, and all of our guys behind the scenes will also be there over the 3 days, so you can come and interact with us. We have some
special deals and stuff that you can come and
so if you have a business and you want some advertising space here on WESN, you can come and talk to us. We do have specials in on those advertising spots, and some giveaways as well. So
come out and engage with us and meet us, and any of your questions, we would be happy to take them on the day. As always, you can engage with us via social media. You can go to our Facebook, our Instagram, our website, WESN TV, WESN CC, or you can WhatsApp us at 682-9376 for any questions, discussions, topics, anything that you want to hear. You can go ahead and leave it with us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning. Stay safe, stay inspired, stay informed. And we have Sean Michael Small on the hour right now, so don't go anywhere. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
the Golan Heights, on the Israeli-held Golan Heights, as if it were planning or at least warning of.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
WESN.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Princestown man cleared in gun case. 2 co-accused convicted. Minister Amin vows to report URP corruption claims to the police. 2 brothers, 1 a soldier held with a loaded gun. And internationally, Air India crash report raises more questions than answers. Now for the details. A 44-year-old man from Princestown has been found not guilty of gun and ammunition possession after a judge-alone trial. Andrew Mead was cleared by Justice Shireen Murray Bailey nearly 3 years after being arrested in Chaguanas with 3 others. The judge ruled there wasn't enough evidence to prove Mead knew about the weapons found in the car he was driving. However, 2 co-accused, Brent Harak Singh and Akeem Lane, were found guilty and will be sentenced in September. A 4th man, Daryl McCarthy, died before the trial began. Local Government Minister Khadija Amin says she intends to report allegations of corruption in the URP to the police. Amin claims the issues took place under the previous PNM-led administration and involved ghost gangs and overspending in marginal constituencies. Opposition MP Marvin Gonzalez is calling for evidence and says the UNC is using unproven claims to distract from its lack of crime-fighting plans. Other PNM MPs have accused the government of targeting workers based on political bias and creating panic with unsupported accusations. Police have arrested 2 brothers, including a Defense Force member, after a gun and ammunition were found in their vehicle in Bellevue Gardens, South Orapooch. The men, aged 28 and 27, were held during a stop-and-search exercise. Officers found a Glock 26 pistol with 5 rounds hidden under the rear seat of their van. Both were taken to the Faizabad police station as investigations continue. Internationally, India's preliminary report into last month's deadly Air India crash has triggered debate over what led to the disaster. The report states fuel switches were turned off just after takeoff, cutting engine power. Though pilots restarted the engines, the aircraft crashed within seconds, killing 260 people. Critics say the report lacks key details like cockpit voice transcripts and may be withholding crucial information. Aviation experts warn against premature conclusions and urge a full investigation before assigning blame. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Get ready for the biggest business-to-business event of the year. The Trade and Investment Convention happening on July 17th to 19th at the Centre of Excellence in the Koya. Doors open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on business days and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Consumer Day. Dress code in effect for business days. Park and ride available from Constantine Park and UETGR North Car Park all days and Nam Devco on the 17th and 19th. Sponsored by the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, Exim Bank, Bal Roop Group and Bmobile Business.
I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond
wanna-
to me.
respond
Respond to
to
me.
you?
How you would respond to me?
The first question I'll ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
Get ready for the biggest business-to-business event of the year. The Trade and Investment Convention happening on July 17th to 19th at the Centre of Excellence in the Koya. Doors open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on business days and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Consumer Day. Dress code in effect for business days. Park and ride available from Constantine Park and UETGR North Car Park all days and Nam Devco on the 17th and 19th. Sponsored by the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, Exim Bank, Bal Roop Group and Bmobile Business.
WESN.
Welcome from the Sister Isle. This is Talking Point Sean Michael Small here, starting off another day. And one of the things that I haven't spoken about yet, I am in Tobago. And one of the issues I have, and maybe there's an answer to satisfy my concerns, but I haven't necessarily heard it yet. Being on the Sister Isle, it reminds me of the times when there were issues with the ferry service, and why does July seem to be a month where the maintenance cycle of certain ships regularly happens in that month of the year? Now, July might be the worst month of the year to take ships down out of service. In the past, when I was living here, it used to be that one of the ferries, I believe, was taken down to do maintenance during July, which I never fully understood. But at least with regards to passenger ferries, August would have been the worst month. That I'm fairly certain. August would be the worst month. I used to go back to Trinidad on most weekends, but going back, and I used to take the boat in the first 2 years particularly. And the first year I didn't even bother, I think, with August. I think the second year I did. And of course, it's a high traffic time. But with cargo, to some extent, you might want to have cargo sailings during August when you have the most domestic tourists. Or maybe you would have preferred to have it in July when the orders would be coming in, the bulk of the orders for certain things, to prepare for August. right? Now, maybe it is that a lot of businesses actually preempt that by a month and they make sure to stock up from June. July is not necessarily the same level of August, but it's not nothing. Of course, there are events going on in July and so forth, but I would just imagine, why is the cargo ferry going down on such a month? Wouldn't June or May be better? Between July and Easter is a relative slow period. Between August and, I guess you could say, Tobago Carnival, you should have somewhat of a slow period. And there are times in between Tobago Carnival and New Year's that should also be a slow period. Wouldn't it be better then? Right now, the Spirit and Galleons Passage, they're taking up to 7,000 kilogram vehicles. It's a cargo service, so you don't necessarily have to be there on the boat with the truck, but you have to make sure to have someone there to clear the truck within an hour, otherwise you'll get an additional fee. And the heavier cargo is going on the barge, Emprendedora. The timing of it, is this the optimal timing? I don't know if we ever got an explanation, and I don't know if anyone ever asked, but it always amazed me to the extent that we would see, oh, a boat is going on maintenance and it's in July. And I've never really registered or heard of any other notices. It's almost like if they know, oh, July is going to be relatively busy, so we need to warn people. Because the other boats that don't go into maintenance on July, you assume they go on maintenance at some other time of the year. Is it that, because it's not even for the whole month, I think it's for 2 to 3 weeks. Is it that it just takes so much effort? This is the only window for these boats? I don't understand. Why in the July-August period, you're going to reduce the infrastructure of the inter-island transportation service? Speaking about the inter-island transportation service is a unique aspect of our national infrastructure because, of course, things are a bit more complicated. Living in Tobago, everything has to come across by our inter-island boats. We import a lot of stuff. Tobago then has to essentially import it from Trinidad, not actually, but practically. And it's just one aspect of how Tobago has needs disproportionate to the ratio of population Tobago to the national population. So relatively speaking, Tobago's needs will be per capita higher than the average Trinbagonian. But that's not to say that Trinidadians don't also have certain circumstances that might require more than the average member of our country, of our citizens. Because there was a fire the village of Rincon on the north coast. I personally, I'm not that aware of our geography and all of the village names, but one of the things that I've always wondered about were the issues with regards to the north coast when it came to police and fire services. But I guess you could say arguably particularly fire services. There was a fire that broke out on the house of a construction worker around 11:45 p.m. And reportedly, the fire tender that initially responded to that fire, I believe it was coming from Mover, it broke down. And I'm not sure which station eventually actually made it to the scene, because reports are that when they broke down, they called Ryson Road Fire Station to respond to the fire. Whichever tender actually made it to the village only got there at 2 a.m. reportedly. That's over 2 hours after the fire was reported to have started. Potentially, that time could have been when the gas tank exploded, and that was not the cause of the fire, that was a result of the fire. So the fire could have been going even longer. The North Coast is a very, compared to the rest of the country, outside of certain cases like Tobago, but even then, the North Coast provides very unique challenges. Not even Tobago has these unique challenges. Because at least in Tobago, certain services, Tobago is big enough to say, all right, we'll put certain services in full in Tobago. You still need to get all these supplies from Trinidad for the most part. You know, international cargo vessels won't dock in Tobago, but Tobago has police, Tobago has fire, Tobago has supermarkets, Tobago has banks, Tobago has infrastructure. The North Coast, on the other hand, is for the most part a single lane road. Well, 2 lanes, one in each direction, along mostly mountainous terrain that's jammed against the coast, so you don't have much room for expansion. The population size is limited, the available space is limited, and then now it makes things complex, because usually when you have a village that is too small, you will just put things in place to maybe have nearby services respond to the needs. But when you have distance and limited transportation options, and it's not necessarily easy to just speed there. You could have lights and sirens and go down the highway. Lights and sirens is not really going to help you get that much faster than a fire tender on the North Coast. Like, at some point, the road itself is limiting your speed, not the traffic. And if there is traffic, heaven help. This is a similar situation where the needs of San Grande and the needs of the North Coast might not be the same. The needs of Princess Town and the needs of the North Coast might not be the same, because the geographical challenges might require innovative solutions. Now, with regards to police, it's really just a question of how many people are you going to commit to there. Driving police trucks and basing up police vehicles there is a lot simpler than a whole fire tender or 2. So then the question is, what are the alternatives? A smaller tender that's more maneuverable, different types of services to respond, different types of infrastructure. I don't know what the possibilities are. I haven't looked into it. I only saw this story this morning. It was just one of those things that was always at the back of my mind. Started with the police and the issue of police up there by Blanchisseuse and so on. But then now, it was always one of those things where if we have issues with responding to fires in places like Arima, potentially, you know, if you're in the environs of Port of Spain, heaven help us if there's more than one fire. But the North Coast, now that's even further. I think even Mayaro might not have quite the same challenge, because the road is on flat land. You know, it's not a winding mountain road with twists and turns that the driver you have to be careful before you end up on the side of the cliff. And this is just one of those things where, arguably, if we want to develop as a country, obviously we can't literally just everything that Port of Spain and has, we will put the exact same thing in full on the North Coast. They might not even have the physical space for that. But the country can't develop and just forget people in remote areas that are difficult to access. Because the flip side of that is they will end up in a situation where those villages might die out, and we'll lose a part of our culture. Or there will be a somewhat regular occurrence of situations like this, and people will be living there at their own risk. ACP Meister, just switching gears, taking his time to reiterate the point once again. ACP Meister has warned against informal transactions, purchasing vehicles secondhand. Right? the last incident, there was a murder. And the police are putting out warnings. ACP Meister is putting out warnings again. You have to contrast the convenience of getting a second-hand vehicle, maybe for a great price. That might be too good to be true. You have to contrast that with the risks. Compare that to the potential harm that might befall you if this situation is not legit. And how many of us know enough to ensure that we don't put ourselves in a compromising situation, especially when some people looking for these deals, they might feel there's no other way to afford these goods or services. So they're desperate. They want it to be true. And at times they might think, well, who's me? I'm a nobody. But hey, you're a nobody with enough money to buy a second-hand car. And that's enough for people to steal. So, of course, we have the same advice. Meet the seller in daylight hours at a public, well-monitored location. A police station is once again suggested. He went on to give the alternative of a busy commercial area. Always request to see valid government-issued ID, vehicle registration, all of that. Look for signs of tampering as well, because then there's also the potential fraud and scams. Maybe it's a stolen vehicle or what have you. But I think all of these suggestions are nice. I think ultimately speaking, perhaps there needs to be a service. It doesn't have to be an extensive service, but a service to oversee such transactions, right? And I'm not asking for something where there's going to be a government office with a whole host of bureaucracy and they're going to want to charge you the 2% of the sale or 5% of the sale or $500 per sale or something like that. But like literally just, and maybe the police should formally start to do this, right? As in, not just you go to a police station, but it's a service. You go to the police, or because the alternative is, I'm even thinking maybe this could be a private security service, but that would require a fee. It might, however, be worth it to some people. I'm not too sure. In order to, because sellers also have to be wary of being robbed as well, not just buyers. If our government was efficient and running well, and it's not just the elected officials, but it's the public servants, we would have some amount of, some capacity for we would be able, or we should be able, to just give minimum oversight to provide some amount of security, that it wouldn't be at least so easy to just outright rob people in these situations. But I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure if we could see this done. I haven't heard anything with regards to an idea like this, so I don't know if this is on the horizon for anybody. But it's so frequent now that I think we need to look beyond just advising people to try to secure themselves better. Now, there will always be to some degree, people who are going to try to, they're going to be careless, or they're going to take it for granted that it's safe, or that they themselves are not a target of crime. Or they're just, I don't know, maybe going to be lazy. They don't want to deal with the hassle. I don't need all of that. And then you get to the point where do you make it mandatory now? And the more steps and bureaucracy and you put into the more the whole second-hand vehicle sales starts to become arduous. But the flip side is, and I guess this is a warning to the population, the more of us that allows ourselves to be victims of crimes like these, the more authorities will have to consider regulating it formally and making that regulation mandatory. And then the more it's formally and mandatorily regulated, greater chance is going to be a fee or cost, because bureaucracy, administration, somebody has to pay those salaries. And depending on how extensive it is, it might become what could be a part-time thing or one-off thing. Oh, well, an officer comes out, oversees the thing in front of a police station. It might turn into, no, it's a full-time position. So now everybody has to pay extra. And then that might be transferred into the price of the vehicle. Might defeat the whole purpose, the convenience, the affordability of it. But of course, the criminals don't care about that. They'll milk this until they can't milk it no more. So, but to some extent, society should care. Other cultures and other societies care about things like this. And they know that we don't want a situation where the system breaks down and then we're forced to have to deal with paying a price that we didn't have to pay before. And crime has a tendency to break systems down. So, we'll have to wait and see how this goes, because at this point, I'm not too sure if the police could hope to inform enough of the population. They've been putting out this message for years. And people are still falling prey to this, I guess because it's too enticing and they don't fully understand the risks. And this is why the state might have to intervene to protect members of the population that don't understand the risk. Yes, it's kind of like having to protect children, but effectively, that's what it is. It's the ball is to some extent in our court if we don't want to see these things happen to take place. With that said, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll welcome the good lady herself joining me via Zoom. Stay tuned. This is Talking About on WSN. We'll be right back after this.
Get ready for the biggest business-to-business event of the year. The Trade and Investment Convention, happening on July 17th to 19th at the Center of Excellence in the Koya. Doors open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on business days and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Consumer Day. Dress code in effect for business days. Park and ride available from Constantine Park and UETGR North Car Park all days, and NAMDevco on the 17th and 19th. Sponsored by the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, Exim Bank, Bal Roop Group and Bmobile Business.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience. Give us a call at 235-5479 for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios. But they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Struggling with heart health or frequent migraines? Discover the simple steps to reclaim your energy and vitality.
We're diving into a topic that affects about 422 million people around the world. Diabetes.
Tune into Wellness Unlocked, the series that delivers expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your health and well-being. Your health matters. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and take the first step toward better health.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
And we're back on Talking with the WSN show. Michael Small from Mr. Style and Tobago. Karen Shera joining us via Zoom. Karen, it's it's been a while since we have been forced to rely on digital technology, and the conversations aren't the same, but they're still important. They have to have it. We have to have it anyway. And big topic today that was derived from last week's topic. You were speaking about a certain situation that had a monopoly, and now you wanted to wait before we went into the wider conversation of monopolies on a whole, because there was a very interesting linkage that you pointed out to me that, as we say, it's important for people to understand because they might not fully connect the dots. And as you said, people tell you, you connect the dots. And it's important because I think we all take it for granted. Like, we know it's bad, but we live with it. But then when you come and connect the dots for us, I guess some of us at least go, if not all of us, well, we didn't know it was quite that bad.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And actually, I wrote an article which you did not read, but that's okay. I'm not offended. Join my children, they do the same thing to me. But in any event, I got some very good feedback in relation to that. And as you said, I think what I've been told is not that you're giving new information, is that you're connecting the dots. So following up from last week, it occurred to me, I said, you know, if you have democracies across sectors in a small nation state like ours, isn't that a threat to our democracy? And I was really very surprised, honestly, when I looked up and I said, let me see if there's any literature on this. And there was so much literature on the impact of monopolies on a democracy that it really meant to me that it was a very real issue, and certainly a real issue for us in Trinidad and Tobago. So that is how what I'm going to try to do in the time allotted to me is first set out what the literature says, what the research says about the implications of having a democracy. I'm going to use an example. I think it's an excellent example, the hard rock cement, which has come back out on the market. So it's a very relevant, very recent example of monopolistic behavior. And then very briefly look at the fast food, and then look at prescriptions or solutions that I think we as citizens, because we do have the power, it doesn't mean that you cannot say something. You can to the various ministries, you can write to the government, you can, all those NGOs that they have out there, you can put together a petition and start petitioning persons for changes in how we do business. And so why do I say that? So now I'm not on air and I have the ability to just go to my various articles on the computer. I don't have that ability to do that this time, so I had to do a lot of writing this time. In any event, it says what is that they are very powerful entities and they control significant aspects of the economy and can undermine principles of fairness and democracy. But they gave examples of this. They said, for example, when we know our major, what we could call our democratic rights that we have enshrined in our Constitution, freedom of association, freedom of expression, equality of treatment before the law, and these are the things that really mark, and the freedom of, and when we say freedom of expression, not only our own conversations, but the media plays a critical component in that. They call it the fourth estate. So those are critical components of what constitutes a democracy. And I'm sure we all know that one of the hallmarks, for want of a better word, of when we see countries being turned into dictatorships or not acting in an undemocratic manner is when they shut down dissent. And a major source of that is using the media platforms to shape the conversation, to shape opinions, and to suppress opinions that are not aligned to those who have the economic power. So after looking at that, I did look at the examples they use, and I'll read some of them out, and I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of you. And I'm going to use the example of Hard Rock only because it's recent. It's really affects the construction industry in a very big way, and it's a very clear example of monopolistic behavior. And it tells you, as I said, who are the agents, who are the entities that can do something about it, who have failed to do something about it, whether by design or otherwise. I leave you to determine that. So this is what it says. When you have monopolies, you have reduced competition. So, and when you have reduced competition, it allows for fixed price fixing and for higher prices. And I can't give a better example, as I said, than the example of Hard Rock. That clearly shows you that. It says also it acts as barriers to entries for new businesses, fewer choices for consumers, because if they're controlling the market, they don't want any competition. That's why you have anti-competitive legislation inserted into our Fair Trading Act, and then the political threat, the influence, and these are headings from articles. This is just not Karen Tischer speaking. This is what the research shows. Influence policy decisions through campaign contributions, potentially undermining the democratic process, control of information, shaping public opinion, suppressing dissenting voices, limiting diversity of opinion, and having the ability to control a large part of the media. And we know that that has to be true in Trinidad. People are afraid to speak out for a number of reasons, and the reason for that is it's the fear of retribution, and that's very real. It is very real. I mean, we can all think of examples. I certainly can, and I know of examples. So it is not something that is unique. It is across the board. People will not speak out. They're afraid that they will lose their job, affect their children. And you understand that because they have mortgages to pay, they have children to send to school, go to university, and they have to, they have to make that choice. In any event, undermining democratic institutions, extreme economic concentration can lead to concentration of political power, potentially eroding democratic institutions. It also can lead to social inequality or income inequality, creating social disenfranchisement, people feeling that they're not part of the process. And the economic disparities can lead to persons feeling that they disengage. And we maybe could see that in our last election, where the turnout was about the lowest we've ever had. And I believe it's among the young people who just decided, what's the point? It's not going to make a difference because the powers that be are the powers that be. And that is a very sad reflection on a democracy where you want to encourage people to vote and to give the opportunity to express their views. Maybe if they didn't have that ability to do that because of that. The other thing they've said is that, and I'm restating it in another article, it says concentration of power, monopolies, centralized economic power, which can lead to political influence, which may lead to government policies favoring monopolistic interests over public welfare. Erosion of competition, stifle innovation, and reduce consumer choice. Small states especially struggle to support diverse businesses, making them vulnerable to monopolistic challenges. And there's something called, I thought was interesting, regulatory capture. In other words, to the extent to which you pass a law, but you need regulations. Remember the Procurement Act? You need regulations that make the law enforceable. And they said that small states often lack regulatory capacity to monitor and control monopolistic behavior. And they said potential for corruption, engaging in corrupt practices to maintain their dominance. So those are some of the factors that monopolies, especially monopolies across sectors, which we do have in Trinidad and Tobago, can affect your democracy and your individual rights. So I said I would use as an example Hard Rock. The Hard Rock, Sean, you know about the Hard Rock, right?
Well, I mean...
Not a ban.
I vaguely remember when it happened. Of course, the whole situation with, I believe, is it even locally owned or domestic, right? But you were telling me about it. I'm sorry, I have so much in my brain. But essentially, they're, for lack of a better word, they're back, right?
Yeah, so, but that's the key to it is this, because I was following it even before the lawyer and me, I suppose. Now,
because this situation is a couple of years old, right? When this
What
all
it
happened
does-
with cement production in the country.
Correct. And so it goes back at least to 2020 when things started heating up, right? But it's really, to me, a clear example of monopolistic behavior and doing exactly what monopolies are, the concerns about price fixing, higher prices, control of the market, so that this is a clear example of that. And that is the Ministry of Trade and Industry, which is the body that was involved in this whole matter. And that is that Hard Rock is already manufactured cement. It is based in St. Lucia, but it has a market all through the Caribbean. And the cement is manufactured both in Turkey and I think Portugal, but mainly Turkey.
Yeah.
But the whole issue arose was they wanted effectively to block Hard Rock from our market because Hard Rock was selling for a far lower rate than the TCL, Trinidad Cement Limited cement. Now, Trinidad Cement Limited may be a misnomer because Trinidad Cement Limited, 70% of Trinidad Cement Limited is not owned by us. It is owned by a Mexican global monopoly called CEMEX. So it's not owned by us. That's why it's a foreign, for all intents and purposes. It is also a foreign player operating in our jurisdiction. 30% owned by locals, investors, etc., but 70% is owned by the Mexican giant. So in any event, the first thing is, of course, we were getting a lot of pressure and a lot of competition from Hard Rock. So there was an effort to have Hard Rock cement classified as gray cement, as opposed to what it really was, hydraulic cement. What's the difference? If it is classified as gray cement, because it's coming from outside the region, it's called a common external tariff, right? It would have attracted a tariff of about 15%. If it was hydraulic, which it was determined that it was, I think WCO intervened, it attracts 0 to 5% external tariff. So that was settled, that was agreed that was the case. However, the government did not leave it like that. Our government did not leave it like that. What they did, I think, in 2021, and I think the rationale was said, its employment opportunities are going to be lost. It is an export market, but exporting, I guess, to the Caribbean. And so there were various arguments put forward. But at the end of the day, they decided to put an import duty of 50, you heard that? 50% on all cement coming outside of Trinidad, which of course was Hard Rock. On top of the quota that they put the import duty, 50%, they also put a quota of 75,000 bags or whatever, whatever is the measure of that cement, regardless of who was the maker. And of course, that closed down Hard Rock in Trinidad and Tobago.
Right.
So what happened? Yes, let us hear what happened now. And they imposed a CET of 50%. So let's see what happened. Over the years, this I'm getting straight from articles, they increased their prices, TCL increased their prices 5 times, and government did nothing about it. This is what the article says, that the small man is the one suffering. This is what they've said. The owner of the Hard Rock, franchise in Trinidad. It said TCL increased their prices by 15.6% in 2021, 7% in 2022, 5% in 2023, 7.6% in 2024, and 7% in 2025. Overall, instead of us benefiting from it, TCL did exactly what monopolies will do, is control the market and increase the prices. And by the way, if you think it did not have an effect on the economy, yes, it did. Because the central bank, when they talk about the non-energy manufacturing sector, they had to admit that the construction industry is in decline. And the central bank governor had to admit the main cause of that was the price of cement. Do you hear what I said? You hear what I said? So they've had to allow, I think from this month, June, they are back in the market. They're back in the market. So if you want a clear example of a monopolistic behavior, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry being the enforcers of the quota, being the enforcers of the import duty, being the enforcers for whose benefit? CMEX is not even owned by us. Okay, so I gave you that example. Obviously, you see that it's quite annoying. And then another quick example before I turn to prescriptions and solutions. The fast food business. Now, why I say I went and looked it up, and I'm not calling out any names, but there are 150 U.S. fast food franchises operating in a country of 1.4 million people. What is the issue with regard to that? It's owned by a monopoly of about 2 or 3 groups. Let me just put it that one. One of them has a major claim in it, but it's operated by a small group of individuals or companies. But what's bad about that? Everybody knows that the major, it's not only in Trinidad, in the United States, all of the Caribbean, non-communicable disease. What are they called? Lifestyle diseases. What are we talking about? Diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, high blood pressure. All of these, they're not contagious. They are attributed to your lifestyle, which a large part of it is what you consume by way of food. And how do we pay for that? Go to the budget every year for Ministry of Health. And by the way, a large part of that budget has to be buying medication for CEDA. Got it? So the franchises, and it also Dr. Carl Theodore years ago, has written several articles about the impact of our health on productivity. Because when people are suffering from illnesses that may not kill them right away, but affect their ability to function, and they have to be on medication, and so on, it affects the productivity. And he has written articles to show the interconnectedness with the productivity in our country and the fact that what we eat. And in fact, I was just coincidentally, and just on the side, I just happened to look at something. I don't know where I saw it, but Japan. There was this, they're saying, why are Japanese people so healthy? Japanese people are so healthy because they don't even know about fast food. The children do not take fast food to school. These schools don't offer them anything of fast food, and don't take food to school. And whatever they eat, when they ask them what were their favorite foods, broccoli, rice, and some other seaweed. I think that was what they said. Okay, so you can be trained to like these things. You don't come on earth deciding that you have to have a sweet drink and eat fast food. But then that is what is happening on culture. So we are paying a price for that. And I'm not saying we should not have franchises. I will not say that. But we do not need this a number of franchises in this country for the reasons. And who's responsible for that? Ministry of Trade and Industry. They grant the licenses, and they are responsible for the quotas. So that's where the buck stops, right there. And you have to ask yourself why. So let's go on. And I just said that some of the prescriptions that I would want to offer. Oh, they also said the other thing is, anyway, that's on campaign financing, which I dealt with separately. So what did I say in terms of Ministry of Trade? Number one, quotas and licenses. I looked at Jamaica, their Fair Trading Commission, and they have been very successful. I looked it up. They have settled about 11 out of 12 matters that they've taken to court. They have also had settlement arbitration on matters over 100 and something. They've settled out of court. They have over 8,000 complaints, and they deal with it. What is happening to our Fair Trading Commission in this country? It's governed by the Fair Trading Act. And last week, I know I mentioned that the Fair Trading Commission, which comes under the Ministry of Trade, has lots of powers on its own initiative. One thing I didn't mention, I said, let me pick it up, was Section 44, which is the powers of the court, right? So don't think that the courts in Trinidad and Tobago do not have the power to deal with these monopolies, because that is what they are. That is what they are, and that is what is allowed. It doesn't happen magically. So when people tell you there's nothing wrong with the rich getting richer, yes, something wrong with it when you facilitated it. Something is wrong with it when you push out any opportunity for the smaller player to enter into the market. Something is wrong with it if they can fix prices, can increase prices, and keep you who want to be part of the democracy called Trinidad and Tobago cannot participate, right? You have to take responsibility for that. You can't just say, oh, it just happened. No, it didn't just happen. I'm looking for the Fair Trading Act, Section 44. Anyway, the powers of the court are exceptional. They can shut you down. They can reduce the number of franchises. They have a lot of power. Why isn't the Fair Trading Commission doing something about this and taking these matters to court? Because the powers of the court are extensive. And let me see if I get it. Just 1 second. I'm sorry. But I did say, because I have to use my phone. I have to use my phone. But when I find it, I will reference it. But in any case, it's Section 44. So you have also the ease of doing business. It is disgraceful. Again, Ministry of Trade, we've got to do something about it. Do you know, in 2012 to 2014, we ranked 68 out of 190 countries, which was a good ranking for a small country. By 2020 and continuing, we have gone down to 105 out of 190 countries, right? And what did they identify as the major issues with our ease of doing business? Paying taxes. TTRA, remember that? Okay. Number one, they said they ranked us 160 out of 190 countries for failure to pay taxes. Yet we had to be shut down the TTRA. Registering properties was the next one. They said out of 190 countries, we came 158 down the road. Low productivity, corruption, foreign exchange controls, government bureaucracy. These were the things that they identified. Not me, they identified as the reasons for us. World Bank did the identification. Now let's look at Jamaica. Again, sorry, but Jamaica, I had to look at Jamaica. Out of 190 countries, Jamaica was at the top of all Caribbean countries. They scored not 105, they scored 71 out of 190 countries. And most telling, ease of starting a business, number 6 over all countries out of 190 countries. Do you know what they did? Cut down all those steps. You know the steps with the white envelope steps? You know the white envelope steps. But some people don't have to go through the white envelope steps. So while you're getting frustrated, why are you taking a year, more than a year, that you can't start a business because who didn't come to work, who didn't finish working a thing, how they look, whatever it is they tell you, a year thing, you either get so frustrated, you come out of the business. Meanwhile, others who have the economic strength in this country are able to start up a business just like that. Just like that. Because they've identified it: corruption, foreign exchange controls, and government bureaucracy. And what Jamaica did, in order to be able to open up a business in 3 days, that is what they are able to do. They streamline the processes. In other words, they cut out all of the steps that are necessary steps that will encourage the corruption that I'm speaking about and we well know about. Because I know, I never did it, but I know people who have. I know people who have. They got so frustrated and they realized, when you tell me, boy, the doctor and come out, oh boy, this and thing. After a while, after 3-4 times, you realize that maybe there's a solution that I haven't considered. And so that's the reality if we want to be honest about it. So Jamaica is leading us, and they've done what we should have done. And if you don't streamline the processes, it means somebody's benefiting.
Yes.
Somebody's benefiting, not so, Sean?
Yeah, I would say this is one of the things where I am not concerned about just in a vacuum, the rich getting richer. My concern is the rich getting richer because they're exploiting everybody else, and everybody else is prevented from becoming richer as well. See, if we all rise at the same time, then fine, right? We can rise at different rates, but if we all have an opportunity to earn from our efforts equally, fine. But things like this, and the monopolistic power gives the incentive to ensure there's no other competition and barriers to do business, barriers or difficulties with the ease of doing business, prevents competition, prevents alternatives coming from the market, prevents innovation. And at a time when we need diversification and local production, But too much of our private economy is based off of, as you've talked about in the past and so have I, importing to retail, which is a drain on our foreign exchange. But as you told me, what is one of the main criteria of who gets foreign exchange? Big business. So big business has multiple incentives to prevent new upcoming small businesses that could in the future be a competitor, right? Absolutely. And it's not just fast food. All food competes with fast food. And that's the thing that we have to look at. Why is it that we don't have the alternative options, the alternative industries, not just the alternative brands and the alternative products? Because the ease of doing business, everything, and it seems like there's no political will to deal with it.
It goes beyond that, you know. I mean, it's not just a no political will. It seems like it is being facilitated because, you know, the Fair Trading Act and Commission is supposed to deal with anti-competitive behavior. It's supposed to deal with monopolistic control. It's supposed to deal with all that we are experiencing. And yet they seem silent. And I found the 44. Let me just read out to tell you how much power they have, and they could do it on their own. And I'll just read some of them. The court, under the Fair Trading Act, powers of the court shall have jurisdiction to hear and determine applications made by the Commission for an order to prohibit or restrict the transfer of shares, require a company to divest specified assets or shares, disqualify persistent offenders from serving as company directors, terminate an agreement or practice, prohibit an agreement, practice, or decision from being made or carried out, and prohibit the acquisition of the assets of one company by another company, except, and they give an exception, require a company to divest specified. So you see how much power they have. So you just say that, you know, when one puts it like that, all due respect to you, Sean, it's not happening in a vacuum. It doesn't just like, oh, this is just happening. It's happening because it's allowed to happen. And the entities in our government structure are facilitating that because they are, by allowing it to happen and not taking any action, we have reached where we have reached. And no one is saying that the rich cannot get richer. Nobody's saying that. But the rich can get richer if the competition in a democracy, there's equality of treatment, equality of opportunity. And that is where the government is the one that takes the lead. And I use the example of the Ministry of Trade. And then the next one, as you alluded to it already, the Ministry of Finance, together with Central Bank. There's a whole, and I'm not getting into it, I'm not getting into that argument about whether they should release the names of the persons who are the major
foreign exchange.
But the reality is, it has been said, and I did read it, that how do you determine, what are the factors you take into account in allocating foreign exchange when to the various banks and to the persons who receive it? They talk about how large your business is. What kind of, I mean, I can understand you want to say that, but if your large business is to use up and consume my foreign exchange, to use it, and by being involved in essentially retail. You know what retail is? You're buying, you're selling. You're buying, you're selling. I don't understand how people don't understand that. What you want to do, I would imagine, and I saw another, and they did explain why it is that production has to be a major consideration. So the Ministry of Trade and Central Bank, as a major factor in a country with tight foreign exchange capacity, in a small nation state that has seen our foreign exchange reserves drop by almost half in a matter of a few years. And without foreign exchange, you cannot buy medicines, you cannot buy essentials that we import nearly everything. Our food bill is over $7 billion a year, right? So we know that apart from the agriculture stepping up and starting producing more, we know that a lot of what we have in this country is the consumption of our foreign exchange without producing, and the evidence is there for everyone to see. So let me just say this. So I think two major factors and that they should take. One, which business is contributing to the production and to our foreign exchange, allowing us to earn foreign exchange. Which businesses are doing that? And the second is, let the small man get in there. You were small once. You are small ones. That is a barrier to trade. That's a barrier to democracy. Give them a chance. The Exim Bank, which I looked it up, gets 25 million US, but they limit what you could use it for. So we need, in this country, to call on the ministry, this current government, which I think is more, what is a good fit? I think we'll get more traction from them. The Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Finance, these are key players in what we're seeing, monopolies which affect democracy, income inequality, freedom of expression, and go ahead, Sean. Sorry to cut you.
Yeah, just wanted to say, to ensure people understand the point you're trying to make. Retail, local retail that relies on imports, spend foreign exchange and earn TT dollars. It is a drain on our foreign exchange reserves, on our balance of trade. It's important for people to understand that. It is a net negative. There's no positive about that on our foreign exchange balance. And essentially, our national industries are facilitating private profit in an unsustainable manner. But I think one of the things when you were just speaking, Karen, that came to my mind is the reason why small businesses need to have a chance is we have an issue with employment and job growth in this country. And too much of our employment is reliant on the government, which is not a good thing because, and we could get into that with campaign finance reform, but if you're reliant on the government for your job, you gotta be careful if you get persecuted for who your political allegiance is at whatever given time. And sometimes it works for you and sometimes it doesn't. And it can affect people's vote and so on and so on. But really and truly, also, a government is not going to be efficient at growing jobs. That's why we have all this rigmarole about the public service and CPEP and URP, and one could even argue national security services to some extent are places for people to eat a food and get a job and not actually be productive.
But what he wants
small businesses could help grow private sector employment, new industries, new skills, new demands for skills. And by stifling that, the job market is stifled as well. And that's, I think, one of the things that the public underestimates. It's not just about getting a new farmer to get your lettuce. It's about growing new businesses that could maybe employ people and provide better working conditions. Because when you have a handful of monopolies with concentrated economic power, they aren't competing for the best people. So they could dictate the terms of employment.
Exactly that. And that was one of the things, as I mentioned, he said erosion of competition. It stifles innovation and reduces consumer choice. Small states struggle to support diverse businesses, making them vulnerable to monopolistic practices. And they also are barriers to trade. They're barriers to persons entering into the market, because if they're controlling everything. And you know, a good example that came to mind before I go to the last point, so I dealt with, well, I mentioned very quickly, and before I forget, Ministry of Health. And the reason why I'm bringing it back is because I went and did further research. And, you know, one of the articles that I had read, but I didn't mention it because it wasn't so clear what the person was saying, although I did kind of understand. What they were saying, that the former minister, Dayal Singh, they were sort of accusing him, at least the person who was interviewing him, of not pushing or the generic drugs and not encouraging persons to use generic drugs because they are safe. And he denied that, but clearly to be asked that question. So what I would have said in relation to the drugs as a prescription, no pun intended, is two things. Fund Kariri. Kariri is where you can test. They set up a lab that can test generic drugs. You know that generic drugs have a patent. Brand name drugs have a patent, and they earn the patent because they have spent tremendous amount of money doing research, development, etc. So they've got to make back that and make a profit. But there also have to be freedom of choice. So after a period of time, then the patent expires, and then the generic makers enter the market, as long as the key active ingredient and the amount of that active ingredient is in that generic drug. That is the key to it all. Now, if we had Kariri funded and it's wholly owned by the government, why is it in Jamaica, CARFA is fully funded, fully operational since 2013, and are prepared to test drugs if we ask them to from Trinidad. But the key about it is that Kariri could do the set up the lab, test the generic drugs that are coming in the market, and stamp them Kariri tested, so people can have confidence that when they take a generic drug, but you see, you don't make as much money on generic drugs as brand name. But if they could do that, then you open up the opportunities. In America, I said 90% of the drugs are generic drugs. 90%. In this country, people are afraid. And you know why they're afraid? Because of the ignorance, because of the fear that is continuously pushed into the public. It is the job of the Ministry of Health and the government to deal with that, to educate, just like how they educated with HIV and AIDS and did a good job with that, I must say. Do a good job with generic drugs because it's affecting too many people, and set up Kariri and start a whole program on dealing with the safety of generic drugs and make sure that you get Kariri to test it. This is what you should be doing. That's what the Ministry of Health should be doing. See what CARFA is doing that you're not doing, which is not doing anything. So that's the Ministry of Health. So don't go on blaming. Listen, it's not some kind of obscure is responsible, you know. It's the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Health, and those are some of the players. And the final thing I wanted to say, as I'm asking you, the public, who affects all of you, campaign financing. I went and looked it up again, sorry, a piece of paper fell. Campaign financing, and it's in a bill. Guess who passed their campaign financing legislation a long time? Take a guess.
Jamaica?
There we go. Since 2016, and our model is based essentially on theirs. So what it does a number of things. Let us see the ills of not having campaign financing. What campaign financing does again to democracy, because that is the focus of what I have been speaking about, and I'm looking to see again, having looked it up, and they put it better than I would have put it, saying. What did it say? I'm sorry to think, but in any event, what we look at in campaign financing, they did say that, yes, it's, gosh, I can't find it, I'm sorry. No, I'm finding everything else, but, yeah, I've got it. Campaign financing significantly impacts democracies by influencing electoral outcomes, potentially leading to corruption and affecting fairness of political process, distorting representation, amplifying the voices of wealthy donors, undermining the trust in institutions. Excessive and unregulated money is put into is given to these monopolies who are able to ensure that they exercise undue influence, disproportionate access and influence over politicians, potentially leading to policies that benefit a few, and they are the few. Corruption, cronyism, voter buying, bribery to secure positions of favorable policy outcomes, erosion of public trust. That's where this disenfranchisement, people say, what's the point of me voting? They're controlling the country, I might as well not vote. So the Campaign Financing Act is under the Representation of People's Bill. So it's still a bill, 2020. And what it talks about, a number of things. It limits candidate spending limits to, I think, 5,000, which I think sort of not. Anyway, there's an Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. You have to register with that particular registration. It also controls, if you contribute more than 50,000, you have to disclose who it is, which company it is. They also talk about fair advertising, fair airtime on airtime. There are a number of things that they have put in place to ensure, as much as one can, that there is fair competition in the campaign financing, so that one does not have a situation, which I'm sure is Trinidad and Tobago's story, where certain persons are perceived to exercise a lot of control over decisions or lack of decisions, lack of enforcement that we see in Trinidad and Tobago. So in summary, I would say to the persons who are listening, yes, we understand the impact of monopolies on your democratic rights, your freedom of association, freedom of speech, freedom of choice, equality of treatment, all of those things. And I would say that you can approach the relevant ministries at a first position, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Finance and Central Bank, Ministry of Health, specifically with pharmaceuticals, and push for the enactment of the campaign financing legislation, which has been sitting around since 2020 under the representation of the People's Amendment Act. So I would suggest that those who have listened, you have the ball is in your court, you have the power, and the power can be exercised by starting, what do you call these things? Getting people to sign petitions.
Okay.
Yeah, right? And it could be all those, and there are so many NGOs in this country. Take the lead. Take the lead. Because if we don't do this, we're going on. We're already probably there already.
Yeah.
And you wake up one day and understand why you don't have those freedoms, because we sat down and allowed it to happen. So please, people.
Well,
Yes,
to that, we have a comment, and I want to speak on the comment, if you could put it up. Are you now exploring monopolies in TNT? Pandey call them the parasitic oligarchy. And I think one of the things that we don't know to what extent it's true 100%, but we suspect, right, that there are times when politicians make certain decisions. What's the potential explanation for it to make sense? Because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. They make some decisions that are kind of like half crazy until you realize maybe they're doing it because that might be what the financiers want. That might be what the big money wants. And it's a combination of things, because why pick Stuart Young and force it in that way? But also, Karen, there was something that you...
That's what people really did think, that he was chosen because they felt that he would continue what Dr. Rowley did. And whether we right or wrong, perception is as good as reality, and that is the perception.
Right, and that's one thing that I think people are aware of it, but to what extent are they underestimating it? Right? That they're not, and that's why what you're calling for, we need more political activism. And this is coming from someone that looks at political activism on the international stages and looks at lobby groups and advocates and activists. And I'm like, most of these people are crazy and they're disingenuous. But our problem is we don't have enough. There might be too much in America, but there's not enough here. Because we tend to wait until the election. And the problem with that is, in between, those 5 years in between, a lot can happen. A lot can happen. And as you pointed out, to what extent do we really get innovation and aggressive business expansion and risk-taking by the private sector? No. They're content sitting on what they have. They're investing their money, their profits abroad. You hear about this group buying assets in Miami and that group buying assets in the Eastern Caribbean and so on. You don't hear about new investments locally because they're content. They're already on top. And they don't see the need to grow any further in a significant degree, whereas there's certain aspects of the public that say we need to grow. In part, to diversify will also mean to grow, because you need to grow those other industries out further. But we're not seeing that from the private sector, and to some extent, this is the influence, Karen. They don't want competition, right? And they themselves don't want to do it. And they themselves don't need ease of doing business fixed. They already have their linkages and who owe them favors and the processes to cut through the red tape. And the politicians seemingly at times make decisions to service them more than to service the country.
But keeping those steps, you have to understand, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right?
Yep.
Okay, so keeping those in several steps. They know that the persons who will suffer the most are the persons who don't have the connection, persons who don't have the money, the persons who don't have the influence. But the persons who do have the influence and control a lot of the part of business, they're not going through those 10 steps. They might get their, I'm just assuming, I'm not calling anything, but I assume that they get their approval on their desk the next day. But you now are struggling. So it's not just a question that they have an advantage over you. The question is they keep that advantage in place, unlike Jamaica, to ensure that they can always say, well, you didn't do it in time, you had to give in this, you had to give that. But that can be seen as deliberate, because that's a way of keeping you out. That's a way of legally keeping you out. But you could solve the problem if you dropped so far down on the ease of doing business, and they identify what it is. What have you done? Why did you allow Hard Rock to come out the market, and what happened was a fait accompli. You had to have known that would have been a consequence. How could they exercise that power over a minister of trade and the government? How could they exercise that power? How do they exercise the power to let one after the other, one of a franchise that is costing this country money, costing it productivity, costing it health? How do you sit down and know that you cannot not know what you are doing? You have to know what you are doing.
And part of it too is then big corporations will go to the government and say, well, we employ the most amount of people in the private sector. We're important. But it's a vicious cycle. Well, of course they employ the most amount of people in the private sector. New industries are not allowed to grow. New businesses are not allowed to grow to try to increase private sector employment. And maybe, Karen, part of it is the incentive is, well, if a significant portion of the population is always in need of jobs, we could provide them jobs and they will be beholden on us. It's the dependency side of it. These things, I don't know if it was intentionally made to go hand in hand, but they are working hand in hand. On one hand, the private sector gets their way. On the other hand, the government gets to keep up a fraction of the population dependent on them. And everybody in boardrooms and executive meetings are happy.
Interlocking directorships. And I want to talk about the salaries.
Well, we have Tunapuna on the line.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll take the call. Tunapuna on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on here. Caller, good morning. Caller, are you there? I'm not sure if the audience is hearing the caller, if the caller is hearing me, but we're not hearing the caller.
To the panel.
Oh, morning, caller.
And Mrs. Karen, I agree with both of you this morning. The way you
Go ahead, caller.
I believe the whole population, after suffering and going through problems, that they will see it the way you all are seeing it. Put our country first, I think, and foremost everybody. Because of that, we have serious crises in this country. This country had so much money, whether foreign exchange, whether local money, whatever we had. And what happened? The way all of you are saying it now, we saw it a long time ago. Our money going out to invest. And many of the profit come back here after investing it, to put into our country and develop it and help our nation. I was worrying about this, and I know we would have reached a stage today. We didn't suppose to other countries don't have URP and all these. All right.
We might have to ask the caller to call back.
They have permanent jobs.
Caller, Karen and I'm not sure.
Develop the country, and we were supposed to use the money and the profit we have to open our own industry.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the public, if you're hearing what the caller is saying.
Foreign income into this country, and today we were supposed to develop this country more than what it
Guys, I'm gonna have to ask you to end the call because I'm holding out hope that she's coming through, but I can't. I literally can't hear anything. Outside of just the fact that she's speaking, I can't make out anything that she's saying.
We'd love to hear from her, though.
And it seems like she has a lot to say, so I'm hoping that we could get these things fixed. To hear her. I don't know if maybe the WhatsApp number might be better or the studio, the landline might be better. Let me know which one to recommend for people to call in. But Karen, you said you want to talk about salaries?
Yes, because you said employing people.
Just to say, if anything, folks, use the WhatsApp number to try and call in. That seems to have a better situation technically. But Karen, go ahead while we wait.
So you were talking about salaries, and curiously enough, I looked to see what was the average salary that is being paid in the fast food business. And what it showed that on average, where they started with a cook, and it works out to $2,400 a month. And at the highest end, for few, it works out to $4,500 a month. So on average, persons working, I don't know if that's called a living wage. I don't know who could live on that. But if those figures are correct, and I am subject to being corrected on that, what was put up was that the salaries of persons working, and they don't get a commission, as far as I'm aware, and they certainly don't get tips because that the nature of their job does not allow for tips.
Yeah.
And a lot of persons working in restaurants, the high-end restaurants, or even family restaurants, rely significantly on their tips. They get no tips, and as far as I know, they don't get a commission for bringing in business. But what they do get is a salary that can mind no one. Yet when you see the published reports of the kinds of profits before revenue of over 1 billion, 1.3 billion, and after taxes, over $63 million a year, and you have people working under those circumstances and controlling the people with children, people who have to work in nighttime shifts. They say, in fact, a lot of businesses don't, well, that's another thing, it's crime. But what I will say is this, something is terribly wrong that we sit down in this country and accept that. Why? I don't understand why. Forget about party allegiance. You know where my allegiance is? The people of Trinidad and Tobago. Forget about party allegiance. Study your children. Study your grandchildren. That's who you have to study. Don't let your life go in vain at the end when your children and grandchildren have to pick up the pieces of what you saw happening and did nothing about it and stayed silent. Nobody's telling you to pick up a placard and placard the Prime Minister's house or any ministry, which, by the way, this is a new government. So, I mean, all what I said is more based on the timelines we're talking about. It's really more relevant to the past administration. So nobody's saying that you have to go out there and do that, but you could start a petition. Let your voices be heard. It's not only election day. Let you make a contribution to your democracy so that when you face your children and your grandchildren, that you could say, listen, I did my part. Please.
So call in on the WhatsApp number to the point if you could call in. We would love to hear from you, all that you have to say to support what Karen was saying. One of the things that I find interesting, Karen, a lot of the labor movement in this country, when you think about it, who do they represent? Not public sector workers. So what about the private sector workers? And the thing is, I find the public sector workers, we need raises, but there are so many private sector workers worse off that don't have anyone to lobby for them. And in my mind, if the government wants to tell us that, hey, we are strong supporters of labor and we are strong supporters of fair wages and all of that, well, it seems like for whatever reason, politically speaking, the conversation is only ever about the public sector. And there's no facilitation. I'm not saying that for jobs that are unskilled, they need to be paid like a CEO. But $2,000 a month is a little too low. Yeah, I don't think anybody is going to say, oh, no, $2,000 a month is fine. I don't think anybody in their right mind would say that.
They have children, and many of these people have children. And, I didn't want to, so what we're sort of winding up on that whole issue about the impact of monopolies across sectors and how it impacts our democracy, association, expression, equal opportunity is very clear. We have given examples, and now the ball is in everybody's court who listens to this and wishes to take a position, because you can. I don't think under this new government, especially, they were not the persons who we are speaking about. I mean, hopefully we won't be speaking about them in that regard. Hopefully they will do the right thing. But just in case they need a little push, let's do something and let them know that we exist, and let them know we are watching, and let them know that we care. We care for the next generation. We care for our children and our grandchildren. I certainly do. And I'm sure it is true for most of you. It is true. So what I was going to say with the CPEP, I try to keep out of that kerfuffle, as Trump would say, as a real kerfuffle. That's one of kerfuffle. That is a whole set of stuff. But I do think you don't need to use a sledgehammer to kill a fly. And I think at the end of the day, the persons who are suffering the most are the thousands and thousands and thousands of vulnerable people. Many people who are in these programs, from my recollection, a lot of them are unemployable for a number of reasons. They don't have the qualifications, they don't have a skill set, and to be very honest with you, some of them have a record, a criminal record, which makes them unemployable for that reason. Not murder or anything, so but it may be something less heinous than that, but that takes them out of the system. And so I think that whilst all the arguments about the lack of having cabinet approval and all these things, I mean, let me just say this, and I might make myself enemies on both sides, but that's okay. You know, this government cannot pretend that they were not accused of a lot of the similar things that they're now going on a high horse and talking about. They can't do that. That's not true. There are many examples of the revolving door of ministers. How many ministers that had to, I think I lost track, but I think about 20 ministers that we had to remove. And all of them more or less had to deal with corruption. And I don't think it is a secret that when they lost the elections in 2015, a lot had to do with the perception of entrenched corruption in her government. And the fact that when you look at the makeup of boards, I am seeing a similar pattern. It seems that the only time you see somebody who does not fall into a certain ethnic group is because they're either the permanent secretary, the deputy permanent secretary, the company secretary, or the minister. Everybody else looking like one group, and that is not in line with when we win, all are we win. Well, I am telling you, perception is reality. So you need to take, and that's my opinion, I think a lot of people are concerned. I think you're doing a lot of good. I think you're doing good in relation to the drug trade. I think you are. I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of sincerity, but you got to watch it. And that CPEP with thousands of people on the breadline, I don't know where that's going to go. But I feel when you balance the individual right or the legal issues against the proportionality test that they would use, and how many people are being victims of they have not caused it on themselves, and you use a sledgehammer in 2 months to do that, something is desperately wrong with that. And I read, I'm Sean, but I think I read somewhere where before you go about firing, there's a procedure for arbitration. But CPEP also, yes, it did. They went the wrong way. Been going the wrong way for a long time, but that's not how it was conceptualized. Why don't you try fixing the CPEP? Leave these people in their jobs. Try and help them. I thought you were concerned about the poor and vulnerable. Well, let me tell you something. That would be the end of the economic ladder in that manner, and trying to convince people that it's okay because of the lack of a cabinet note. The fact that some of these people, I wonder if people went back to 2010 to 2015, they could say a lot about that government. So get off the high horse, in my respectful opinion, and I believe that you're going down the wrong way. And so for all of those who say, Karen Teixeira is on this side, well, I on nobody's side. I on the side of people of Trinidad and Tobago, as is clear from the fact that I take a position that is unattractive to both sides.
And the thing is, you can acknowledge that there are issues with CPEP, but as you said, Karen, don't try to act like if you did not contribute to the problem, no matter how big or small the contribution was. And also, okay, fix it. But how is it that in other areas of government, you are taking your time and being cautious and being thorough? But in this one, you're ramrodding it through from day one with almost like if you have a predetermined outcome without fully exploring and fact-finding what's going on.
And you know what is very telling? You know what is very, very telling about how they went about this? Look at the reason they use. They say they're using the thing for political, getting political patronage. They're saying they are concentrating it in PNM strongholds, right? That's something listen, when you tell me why you're doing it, it sounds very political to me. And it sounds
did you see today?
Wrong as much as how it's politically charged. And let me just tell you, the cohort that you are affecting We all know it's quote unquote the urban poor. And that
well, Karen,
is a great error.
Speaking about perception, I didn't speak about it yet, and it's part of the wider CPEP conversation, which I'll get to hopefully before the end of the week. Probably tomorrow. I'll spend tomorrow talking about it. The campaign manager, apparently, the national campaign manager of the UNC is now the program manager for the URP. And I'm not saying that he doesn't necessarily deserve the job or can't do the job, but in the environment, right, when you're saying we're going to deal with political patronage and corruption, and then you're like, oh, but UNC man, yes, you did a good job, we'll give you a position. Like, I don't know, especially since they're not necessarily doing things carefully and with patience, and they seem to be pushing these things through, right? So now you have a whole host of people, if they did not vote for the PNM in the last election, if they walked away from the PNM in the last election, you're doing a very good job of pushing them back into the PNM.
Walk back in.
Right?
Yes, all right.
The PNM is not earning back their votes. You are pushing them towards the PNM because what are they supposed to make of you now?
Absolutely. It's really a sad, sad state of affairs because I really think they're making a lot of missteps. By the way, having said all that, I will want to say on the record, I think I've said already, but I really do have a lot of respect for Minister Amin. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I had respect for her before, for reasons I may have said before, but she is hard working. That's the kind of minister you want in your ministry. So for all of those, I bigging her up. I really think she is up to date today because you never know, down the line. But what I can see of her and what I knew of her, Khadija Amin, you are a stellar minister. So I'm going to put that on the table. The unfortunate thing about going back to the PNM, the crop that they have there, oh God, the crop that they have there, it's so. And
that's the thing. Now, Minister Amin is involved in this decision, but
URP.
But I think the URP, the new URP manager, that's more, look, you really don't understand the perception of how these things look. I'm not saying that it has to be corrupt and it has to be political, a quid pro quo or anything like that. I'm not saying that there's anything that's substantially, bad about it. I don't know. What I'm saying is, like you mentioned before, the perception of it, the timing of it, right? But outside of that, I agree with you. I very much appreciate the fact that Minister Amin is a working minister. We've seen her working, right? We've seen her getting things done, and hopefully, we don't see her ministry.
She's balanced.
Right. But you see, part of it too is, and I've said this with the PNM, so I could say this with the UNC, it's only fair. Some of these decisions, Minister Amin might be the point person. Is she necessarily the person making the final decision? Or is it cabinet? Is there a wider agenda? I don't know. I hope that the Prime Minister, because, we at least right now, we still have faith in the Prime Minister. We still have faith in certain ministers in cabinet who have impressed us so far, that we get a bit more of a mature handling of these situations before they devolve any further. Because I
think, sorry to cut you, but I think also the Minister of both ministers in the national security, I think I would give them props for how they've handled themselves so far. But I do think, as it happened when under this former government and when I was, I think, there's always a little clique. And sometimes that clique exerts too much power.
Yes.
And sometimes the reason for exercising that power has nothing to do with the good of the people, but the good of the persons who they represent.
Okay, we have a call. We'll try and take this call before we close, and we just have a comment to respond to from earlier on in the show, but we'll take a call first. Mova from Mova. Good morning, caller. You on the air?
Good morning to the panel. Yes, I'm concerned about the situation of the CPEP, those workers, they come like collateral agreement. I'm sorry that they had to go through this, they shouldn't be suffering. But have research been done in terms of how many of those managers was once grass cutters and become and have an employee That is a movement. That is movement. Some people naturally don't want to become out of the CPAP. They're just professional grass cutters. They can lie down on the grass, and that is what they like. That is what they choose. So some of those people could be managers and hire CPAP workers and they get contracts and all that. Have a survey being done to find that. Apart from that, this government has the luxury of having unions who are ministers, so they could have dealt with it with the ministers. They would have a much softer landing, but they came out and they said what they had to say for and had to roll it back. And the very union minister may have to just side and go along with it. So I think it was done wrongfully, and should have used the opportunity of having the union representatives in the government and before they come out and say anything like that. And the CPEC workers understand that the CPEC was who pay the workers and not the contractors, so the CPEC workers could still get their money and not be suffering. That's my contribution. I waited a long while to see what's happening before I make this contribution. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just want to say he made a very good point. Someone corrected me. He said the contractors and the workers are paid separately. So what's stopping you from paying the army workers and deal with the contractors separately?
The thing is, this is the issue when you make pie in the sky campaign promises. Now it's hard. It's always going to be hard to live up to them, right? The more all-encompassing your promises are. When UNC wins, everybody wins. The problem is everybody cannot selectively, exclude, but except those people because they were PNM political people. Well, first of all, were all of them PNM political people?
And guess what? It doesn't matter because I'm not even talking about we're not talking about the contractors, I'm talking about the
workers, yes.
Right, and they are paid separately. So why couldn't he continue to keep them on whilst he's getting new contract? I want to know what Justice Mohammed is going to say on Friday. And even if whatever happens, it is going to go to the Privy Council, and there's going to be the test of proportionality. And even if they say, like they did with the central bank governor, which they're prepared, I've said it on record, that they were prepared to know that they had to pay damages. They wanted to get rid of him. They took a risk decision, and they said, let's get rid of him and put in who we want. Okay, and they're paying a price for that. But you see that thing with the CPAP workers? Because of the cohort you're dealing with, forget about the politics. It's the urban. Let us use the and the Laventil people you're hurting. It's the people you're hurting.
Let me wrap it up with this. The Prime Minister herself even said, it's not about political allegiance, and she made overtures to the fact that she's willing to work with people who are willing to work with her, right? And it's not just about political loyalty and the PNM people are going to be left out in the cold. She made statements that are in effect early on, right, when they now came into office. And now the handling of CPAP is basically making her look like a liar or a hypocrite.
And so on, you cannot leave out these state boards. When you look at these state boards, it is ridiculous. It is obvious an agenda. It is going against
what makes it worse is that this is going against statements made by the Prime Minister.
Right.
So your comment about a cabal, now it might not be in the actual form of a cabal as we thought of it in the partnership time, but effectively it could be something like that. We don't know. Because why is it that the Prime Minister is going to give a sentiment and what we see as actually implemented leaves much to be desired? And it makes me wonder as well. It's interesting how I have said similar things about the opposition leader being undermined by her MPs at times and their messaging. Yes, right? Because she's trying to say we need to learn and grow, and the rest of them are basically grow what grow. We've already grown. We know everything. We know better than everybody. We didn't lose because we were wrong. We lost because we don't even know why we lost. But it was our fault that we lost. We know that much. But anyway, sarcasm aside, we need to wrap up. So we get to the last comment.
I want to say one thing, and I forgot what it was, but it was a good point. I wanted to make. I really wanted to make a good point. Can I just say it quickly, please?
Quick.
Okay. This is said in the best interest of the government and the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So if it comes across as harsh criticism, and it is criticism, you are new in the business. There are one or two ministers having okay, Sean, give me that look.
No, it was not about you. It's about the ministers who don't want to
there's a group of ministers that are exercising apparently too much power and control, and it is not in your interest. I have just said as an outsider looking in. And I would suggest, I feel a lot of your ministers feel the same way I do. So if I were you, Madam Minister, with all due respect, I respect you, Madam Prime Minister, but you need to put a halt on it and start moving that thing in a different direction, because right now, it ain't looking good.
Yeah, when you made that comment, a certain minister or two came to mind. Right? A certain minister or two, I won't say who. No, let's just go to the last comment. This is about the police advice on second-hand sales. What do they mean to go to a police station? I think what they mean to do is to inform the police station, and you do it right outside the police station. The hope would be that no one would look to rob you of $30,000 or a car in front of a police station. What I am saying, though, is I think the government might need to consider doing something more, because this is happening too much. People are looking to go online, sell something or buy something, and end up getting robbed and potentially
Why don't they go somewhere like a police station or go somewhere safe? Would you going in some back door? I mean, I would not do that. You see how much crime in this country. What you doing that for?
I think people take it for granted. Now, the police is saying do it. The police is saying go to a police station. But I'm saying it needs to be more than just doing it in front of the police. There might need to be a police officer present just to oversee, because the amount of crime over things like this, Karen, it's getting to be too much. It's getting to be too much. And the criminals know it. They know that it's easy to do it. And people take it for granted. They're too complacent. And perhaps the government needs to say, all right, you want to sell your car secondhand? You can't just go to somebody's street and sell it.
Or the woman who lost a new car.
Somebody died recently. ACP Meisters has to speak about this again because someone was killed. All right, that's it. We're way over time. Before Master Control gets vexed with me, I want to thank the callers. I apologize to Tunapuna. If the public heard your contributions, well then, kudos to the public. But I can't. I myself didn't hear it, so I hope that you could call in later in the week to give it. Thanks to Mover for calling in. That was an important point there. The workers. It's very convenient. We talk about the corruption with the managers. What about the workers? Of course, thanks to Karen for bringing up this topic. And it's interesting to see what else there'll be to speak about. It's funny. You would have thought in the first 100 days there wouldn't be that much bacchanal, but in a way, here we are. Folks, with that said, stay safe. Remember your allegiance to the Republic and to each other. Have a good day, and never forget, it's nice to be nice, especially to people who have different political allegiance to you. That's the only way we could build bridges, mend fences, and come back together so that we could see each other tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Get ready for the biggest business-to-business event of the year, the Trade and Investment Convention, happening on July 17th to 19th at the Center of Excellence in the Koya. Doors open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on business days and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Consumer Day. Dress code in effect for business days. Park and ride available from Constantine Park and UETGR North Car Park all days, and NAMDevco on the 17th and 19th. Sponsored by the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, Exim Bank, Bal Roop Group and Bmobile Business.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private health care